business owners, assisting them to accelerate their growth and value. And if you've not heard Bruce speak before, you're going to have an awesome time. Please put your hands together for Bruce Buchanan.
Now again, I do have to stick to this area just so that the camera catches me, because I am a bit of a wanderer. So welcome everybody, and thank you very much to CenWest Innovate for the invitation again to be able to speak to you all. What I'd like to do is just to start off with, turning this on, with a little video just to show you.
South Korea is a unique market. Tesco has been evolving itself, adjusting to the local market. It even changed the name itself from Tesco to Home Plus. And at last, it grew to rank number 2 in Korea. But Tesco had to overcome one obstacle, a fewer number of stores compared to the number 1 company, E-Mart. Mission: could we become number 1 without increasing the number of stores? We made an in-depth study into Koreans once more. Koreans are the second most hardworking people in the world. For them, grocery shopping once a week is a dreaded task. So we decided to approach these busy and tired people. Idea: let the store come to the people. We created virtual stores, hoping to blend into people's everyday lives. Our first try was subway stations. Although virtual, the displays were exactly the same as actual stores, from the display to the merchandise. Only one thing was different. You use smartphones to shop. Scan the QR code with your phone and the product automatically lands in your online cart. When the online purchase is done, it will be delivered to your door right after you get home. People can relax more after work and on weekends.
실제로 보면서 사니까 진짜 더 좋은 것 같아요. 편하기도 하고.
Result: people can shop at Tesco Home Plus wherever they go without having to visit the actual store. Moreover, we could change their waiting time to shopping time. After this campaign, online sales increased tremendously. Through this campaign, 10,287 consumers visited the online Home Plus mall using smartphones. The number of new registered members rose by 76%, and online sales increased 130%. Currently, Home Plus has become number 1 in the online market and is a very close second offline.
So just some different ways that people are actually pricing, costing, doing their service these days so that they can actually widen who their target market is. So why do we think it's very important to actually get our pricing and our costing right, just from the audience?
So you can survive.
So you can survive, absolutely.
So you can feed your children.
Yes, you can feed your children, that's a good one.
So pay your rent.
Yeah, pay your rent. Yeah, all good ones.
Yeah, to keep active.
To keep the business moving. Yeah. One of the things that's really important, and for this presentation, in all sincerity, if you forget everything else, please remember this. Money in the bank is your best friend. You can do as much work as you like, but until that cash is in the bank, it doesn't mean squat. The long and the short of it is. All right? And this really, whilst I've heard this expression so many times before, it really didn't resonate with me greatly until I actually became a VC manager. And one of my very first clients, and this was a considerable time ago now, so we're talking probably about 18 years ago now, he was a builder that came in to find out how he could actually declare bankruptcy. I said, what do you want to declare bankruptcy for? And he said, I cannot pay my bills. And I said, okay, well, bring them in, let's have a look at your books and everything like that, which he did. Now, the guy was actually owed $180,000 from work that had been done. Some of it had been done 10 months ago and still not been paid. And the one that was probably the most disappointing out of all of this was the person who owed him the most money was the person who had the means to actually pay the bill. It's I guess how the rich stay rich and the rest of us keep paying our bills. But the long and the short of it was, it was not in him to be able to ask people for money. I said, you've got to bring these debtors in. He said, I've tried. What have you done? And he said, well, I keep on sending them a reminder. And I said, have you spoken to them? And he just looked at it and said, well, can't do that. And I said, well, why not? And he said, because it sounds like I'm begging. I said, we're about to go into bankruptcy here. This is what it is. And he said, I can't do it. And I said, look, let me show you how it's done. He said, well, now, I said, absolutely. So I said, who's your biggest debtor? So he gave you this person, which is the person that could pay his bill. And most bills were paid by cheque, not EFT like they are today, back then. And so I gave this guy a ring, $43,000, right? $45,000, but a significant bill. And phoned him up and, hi, it's Bruce from the Business Enterprise Centre. So-and-so is a client of ours at the moment, and we're just helping him with his financial management. And I've just been going through his books, and I've seen here that you owe him $45,000 that was work that was done 10 months ago. Is there any reason that this has not been paid? And as true as I'm standing here, these were his exact words. Well, he's never phoned and asked for it. And I said, you've been sent multiple bills. And he said, yeah. He said, but whenever I get an account, I write a cheque for it, I stick it in my top drawer, and that's where it stays until I get a phone call. I went, excuse me? And he said, well, if I don't get a phone call, then clearly they don't need the money. It's better in my account than it is in theirs. And you know that moment where you sort of go, no, he just didn't say that. No. But he did. I said, well, here's the phone call. He said, great, I'll stick it in the mail for you. I said, better still, we'll come around and pick it up. And he said, what, now? I said, yep. And that day we got back everything but $22,000 that he was actually owed on that day by just driving around and seeing people. But this guy, a hard-working and a very, very hard-working man, has a good business, but he's a lousy bookkeeper. Really, really bad at being able to bring those debtors in. And what was nothing to do with his business, but I was actually up on holidays up on the mid-north coast, and I saw this ad in the Sydney Morning Herald the following Christmas, and the ad said, and I just thought of this guy, and this is the ad, and it said, wanted one dragon lady to run the accounts department of a small manufacturing firm. And you could just hear the frustration in this business owner in this ad, And so one of the things that is really important in business is that not only have we got good pricing and good costing, right, and the way that we actually look at our costing and the way we do it. But at the end of the day, we can have the best pricing and costing in the world, but if people aren't paying their bills, we're going to go out the door very, very fast. Okay? So when we're actually looking at some pricing and costing, we can't actually do it in isolation. There are certain things that we do have to look at. And here they are here. The very first one is our target market. In other words, who are you targeting? Who are your customers? And what means do they have to be able to pay? Now, you can have the best product, the most expensive product in the world, but if people haven't got the capacity to pay, they're not a customer, are they? They might be interested in wanting to, but if they haven't got the capacity to pay, then really we don't want to be doing business with them. So if the average wage of this community that you're in is only $45,000 or $55,000, and what you're selling is not a discretionary item but a disposable item, all right, and it's a high-end item, then the chances are that this product is not going to do well in this particular target area because they're not going to have the capacity to be able to pay. Not saying they don't want it, but they haven't got the capacity to pay. So we need to look at our target market. Who are those people that we are going to sell to? Where are they located? Are they going to come to me, or do I have to get the product to them? And if I've got to get the product to them, come on in. How are you going? If I've got to get the product to them, how am I going to get the product to them? How much is that going to cost? And am I going to build that into my price, or am I going to have delivery charges added? And we're actually going to get to that a little bit later on, and I know John's going to cover a bit of that in his presentation as well. So we need to look at who our target market is. And one of the things that I really recommend to people, for the Irish people, one of the things that I really do recommend, and that is that you think of your ideal customer. And the word we're going to use is your avatar. In other words, what does your ideal customer look like? Okay? So a fictitious customer. So at the BEC, where I am, we actually have Startup Sally. Nothing to do with Sally sitting here. But we have Startup Sally. Okay? Sally is obviously female. She is between 35 and 50 years of age. She has had her family, but they are still at school. So she needs flexibility in being able to run her business so that she can drop the kids off, she can pick them up, she can go and do what she's got to do. Sally watches on television programs such as Winners and Losers, MasterChef, etc., My House Rules. She reads Cosmopolitan, she does this. So you get this picture in your mind of what your ideal customer looks like. So that when you're targeting your advertising dollar, you should be, imagine Sally as the red dot in a bullseye that you're aiming for with a bow and arrow. Sally is that red dot in the middle. That's who I'm aiming for. Now, I'm not always going to hit the bullseye every single time with my marketing dollar, but if I'm aiming for Sally, the closer I get to her, that's more my ideal customer that I'm actually going to get to be able to target my advertising dollars and to best attract this group of people who I believe are the best chance of me being able to sell my product or my service. Okay? So who's your avatar, in other words? Okay, that ideal person. And you might have, so we've also got Big Picture Bob, just so you know. Bring Big Picture Bob down to the reality occasionally, but we have about 4 of these guys that we talk about. But when we're advertising, one of the things that we don't want to do to our target market, we don't want to just stick an ad out, because all we're doing is just literally throwing money. I can't tell you, and anybody that's worked in advertising will tell you the same thing. The number of people that go and say, oh, well, you know, the Central Western Daily or the Western Advocate doesn't work. Well, what did you do? Well, I put an ad in the paper. Great. And? Well, I didn't get any response from it. So what else did you do to support that? What do you mean? I put an ad in the paper. I paid for it. I understand that, but how did you go about, where did you put it in the paper? So if you're targeting men, don't stick it in the classifieds, stick it in the sports section, because it's the only part of the paper we know the fellas actually read. In fact, most guys that I know get a paper, turn it backwards, and they read it this way. That's the way they read the paper. And it's the only part of the paper that they actually read from top to bottom. They will glance through the rest of the paper, but the sports section is the only part that they actually read. If you're into health and beauty, wait for that feature, that health and beauty feature that tends to come in, you know, once a month or once every 6 weeks in the paper. Put that in and advertise in there so that you're actually targeting those people who you can actually tell your product to with the price point that you want to the right people, rather than just throwing this net out hoping that you're going to catch somebody or something. It's sort of like a fisherman. You know, a fisherman doesn't just say, I'm going to catch fish. They go, okay, well, I'm going to catch barramundi. So they go and find out where the barramundi are. And then they go fishing and they cast their nets and then they bring in their haul, and the bulk of the fish will be barramundi. Yes, there'll be some flathead. Yes, there'll be some bream. Yes, there'll be a little bit of flathead. And some of them they'll keep because they're good-sized fish. Some of them they'll throw back because they're too small. It's not their target market. So they're going to say, no, don't want those people. But you find out where those people are. So one of the things that we need to do when we're setting our price is looking at who our target market is. Can they afford our product or service? What size family do they have? Is this a boutique product, or is this something that is much larger? So we've got a client, for example, and their business is that they make melting moments, okay? Cookies, biscuits. When they go to the undercover markets, they literally get their cookies and they wrap them in a bit of cellophane. 8 cookies in a bit of cellophane, tied with a bit of raffia at the top, and they sell them for $5. Well, when they go to the farmers markets, they get exactly those same cookies, and then they go and put them into a clear cylinder, placed like this with a little bit of cut up cellophane at the bottom, and they sell it for white price. Purely by the way that it's packaged to a different target group, same product on the inside, but packaged a completely different way. They also have them in the Orange Visitor Centre, and by the way, they're in a glass jar with sealed at the top with red and white gingham material and beeswax over the top. And they're selling that for Z price. Same product, just packaged a different way for different target groups, okay, so that they can get their pricing strategy right for these people. So what are your business objectives? In other words, what is it that you want to achieve from this business? What's the financial return that you need to make this thing work? We're going to talk about break even a little bit later on, but what are your achievements to be able to do both obviously financially, but also the goal that you've got for your business? And I can't tell you the number of businesses that haven't got goals, they haven't got a set strategy. You go and ask them, what is it that they want? And you know, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I want to make a sale. I understand that, but where do you go? And one of the things that I really recommend to people is, and I know it sounds cheesy, and I know you've probably read it and probably even wondered what it is, but you know when we talk about things like a mission statement and a vision statement? The whole idea of a vision statement to me, okay, which is probably different to what you might have read, but it's where you actually close your eyes and you visualise your business in its absolute best format, all right, and in what the dream of what it is that you want, because that's what I should be aiming for. But if you don't know what you're aiming for, how can you put your objectives in place? And there's a wonderful cartoon from the story Alice in Wonderland, where Alice comes to a fork in the road and the Cheshire Cat's leaning over the top of the branch. And Alice looks up and she says to the Cheshire Cat, "Which road should I take?" And the Cheshire Cat said, "Well, where do you want to go?" And she said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, it doesn't matter which road you take." And in business, it's exactly the same. If we don't know where we want to go, all we're going to do is wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. And we're not going to actually achieve our dreams. We're going to work very hard, but we're not going to turn around and achieve our dreams because we haven't set a vision and a direction as to where we want to go. We haven't set those financial objectives. We haven't set those personal objectives of where we want the business to be. We haven't set the strategies in place for us to be able to measure our performance and to work towards something rather than just accepting what's coming our way. All right? So we need to look at our business objectives. The third one there is our marketing mix. So our product, our price, our place and our promotion. All right? And John's got a couple more he's going to add to those 4 Ps as well. All right? So, but what is the product or the service, when we talk about product, what is the product or the service that I'm selling? What's my pricing strategy? How am I going to do this? Am I going to break this up into bundles for people? So there's a starter bundle and a middle bundle and a top bundle? Or is it just here's the product, this is it in its entirety, that's what it's going to be? Or are you going to have, one for pensioners, one for, so for the BEC, for example, we've got a startup package. And then we've got a stepping up package. And then we've got an Innovate package. And so there's a number of different packages people can have. And they're priced accordingly to that particular target market. So you look at your pricing strategy. Where do you place yourself in the market? Do you place yourself at the lower end of the market, the middle end of the market, or are you an exclusive product or service? All right? And if you're an exclusive product, that's fine. That's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But don't waste your money advertising down here because these people don't have the capacity, they don't have the funds to be able to buy what you've got. So where is it that you need to be? All right? There's a really, really great story about a lady who was a sales rep at Mercedes-Benz in Sydney, and she wanted to open up a Mercedes-Benz retail store at Sydney Airport, and they said it will never ever work. And so she actually said, well, I'd like to go and open that store on commission only. No retainer, commission only. And they've just knocked it down and they're building a double-storey showroom that's been so successful. So you find your target market, where are they located? And the last one is your promotion, the four Ps, our product, our price, our place and our promotion. How are we going to promote our product and service? How are we going to let people know what it is that we do so that they can be aware of our product? Where are they going to go and check it out? And one of the things, and we've got a slide on this a little bit later on, but one of the things that a lot of people do now is that they will check you out on their web, won't they? Yeah. Who here uses their iPhone or their iPad at home and just checks things out on the web at the night time? We do it more than we watch television. I kid you not. We can actually sit at home with our partner and we don't even talk. We're still just, checking out our things on our iPads. If you're nodding there, my wife does the same thing. Yeah. Excuse me, can we have a conversation now? Yeah, in a minute. Hang on. Just watching a YouTube clip here. So people, before they buy, people are going to turn around and they're going to check you out on the web. So a classic example of this would be the accommodation industry. Okay? Now, when I grew up in the 70s, all right, I was born in 1961, but when I grew up in the 70s, when you wanted to turn around and go somewhere, you got out the NRMA directory and you had a look at the star rating of the NRMAs to choose where you were going to go. The what? What's in the NRMA directory? Don't exist anymore. We go to What If, we go to TripAdvisor, we check out the ratings that people have given. People will check you out before they will actually purchase, won't they? Right? So you've got to look at the way you're going to promote your business, because the way you're going to promote, you're going to have to put that into the cost structure of your product or service. Okay? So are you going to do it online? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And sometimes, in fact, I was only with a client today, and he said I wasn't going to have a Facebook page, a website, and all. I was just going to have a Facebook page. And I said, okay, can I ask why? And he just said, oh, Facebook's more with it, and, websites are getting a bit old, etc., etc., etc. And I said, so for the nature of your business, though, really what you want is your website to be more of an electronic brochure. To be able to show people they can go and they can see videos and do all of those sorts of things that are there that are nice and easy for them. Use your Facebook page to actually promote the stories that people are giving you and the good news, so that you've got the two working, together as part of the process that was there. Okay, we also need to look at what our competitors are charging. Now, that's not to say that we should base ours around our competitors. Sometimes we need to, because we need to be price competitive. But what can differentiate your product or service from their product or service so that your price doesn't have to be the same? Okay? So what is your competitor charging? But the difference is we have so many people, I've chosen this price. Okay, well, why is that? Oh, that's what my competitors are doing. So what are their costs? What do you mean? Well, their costs will be the same as my costs. Do you know that? Are you renting? Yes. Are they renting? Well, they're in a building, right? But do they own it? Do they know the owner? Are they getting a discount? Are they on a long-term lease where they're only paying a certain percentage every year and, where you're paying a lot more? I don't know. Well, you need to find that out before you turn around and start setting a pricing strategy that's actually going to potentially make you go backwards without even realising it. Okay? So what are your competitors doing? What days are they open? Why are they open on those days? Have they already tested the market and found that it's not worthwhile opening on these particular days? Right? Or is your differentiator, your unique selling position going to be that you are, even though the physical store might only be open this time, you're going to have an online store where the business you can actually purchase from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Did you know that 68% of all PayPal transactions happen between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. of a morning? That's where a standard bricks and mortar business isn't even open. Who here purchases on the net? A few there in Orange as well, yep. Okay, who's purchased between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning? And here's just a standard select group of people. We've all done it. And yet there are so many businesses, as soon as they shut that physical door, that's it. There is no more trade until the next time that they physically open the door. And yet there are potentially millions of customers who are purchasing online, not only domestically but also overseas. So you could potentially be increasing your sales by 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% a year without having to actually get any more money in. And I'm allowed to tell you this story. Maria Neal from Grenfell Shoes. All right, Grenfell population under 4,000. Maria has had a 40% increase in sales year after year since she has got herself an online shopping facility. She can tell you to the day when Grenfell residents are going to come in and buy school shoes, grad shoes and Deb shoes. And her business was just static. If you actually looked at her sales, it was like that. There was no growth because Grenfell's not growing as a community. So then she put an online shop, and she certainly stocks non-traditional ladies' footwear, particularly. And so it's a little bit funky, a little bit out of the ordinary, and her sales have just grown.
So are her sales still local, or are they? No, they're
all
national.
Over Australia.
Yeah.
All over Australia. And not only that, but she actually doesn't bill you until 30 days. So you've got 30 days. You've got 30 days to actually try the shoes and send them back in their size before we'll actually hit you. And so one of the things here for Maria's business is that by doing that, when you've got ladies going to buy shoes and you go to Pussyfoot Shoe Boutique here in Bathurst, okay? You rock up to Pussyfoot Shoe Boutique in the outfit that you are in. And then you see a pair of shoes that are lovely, but they don't go with the outfit that you just happen to have on for the day. By having them at home, and you can have up to 3 pairs sent there, you can actually have them at home. You can be trying them on with all your different outfits in the comfort of your own home, not having to go in and out and do all of this sort of stuff. find the shoes that you like, send the rest back, and if it's not there, if it's sent back within the 30 days, it doesn't get debited. After 30 days, it does. Right? So a great way of somebody looking at the way that they are pricing and costing their business and growing their business through that medium. Right, so looking at your competitors. What are your product and service costs is the next one, okay? So in other words, what does it cost you just to keep the doors open every single day? How much does it cost you to keep the doors open? How much does it cost you for each product that you make to deliver that service? So if you've got staff, we're talking about your staff costs, okay? If we're talking about actually producing a product, we're producing this particular clicker, how much does it physically cost me to produce this, to package it, to get it from point A to point B, okay? And build that in. What's the demand for your product or service? Is it in high demand? Is it in constant demand, but not high demand, but in regular demand? Or is it just a fad, for example? So we've got products that come out where all of a sudden they come out and everybody wants it. So the latest iPhones just come out, huge big insurge, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, the price drops because everyone that wants one's got one. And then it comes down as the other people are sort of getting off their plans, and then finally it moves down to this price point. And the reason it moves to this price point is because, guess what? There's a new iPhone, all right? Which just happens to come around about every 2 years when you've just paid the plan off on your last one. We've got a little bit left to go. All right, so what's the demand for your product or service? And can you create a demand? Can you actually create an urgency for the product or service that you've got as part of that? And then what are the trends in your industry? What's happening out there in the marketplace? What are those trends? And in other words, can I ask a high price because there's a big trend for this? And so therefore I'm going to go for what we call price skimming, where we actually get a lot of money up front. Or is the trend that people are value conscious, they're looking for price, we're going to go on a lower price point and we're going to go for what we call price penetration, where we're actually penetrating through the marketplace. So when we're looking at our pricing and costing, we need to take those things into account. So the three main areas that people really price their product or service, and there are some different ones, and the first one's what we call cost of goods plus a percentage. I add up all of my cost of goods, this is how much it costs me, and then I put a profit margin on the top. G'day. All right? The second one is what the customer prepared to pay. Now, what do you think the big advantage would be of setting your price, first and foremost, to what the customer is prepared to pay? What would be the biggest advantage? Yeah, you get more sales because they're prepared to pay it. Anything else?
You get an understanding of their perceived value.
You certainly do.
What your product is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now looking at the reverse of that, what do you think the disadvantage of actually pricing your product according to what your customer is prepared to pay? Absolutely.
Definitely.
Because they don't know what those fixed or the variable costs are to the product that you've actually got to make. They don't understand the price of the delivery and what other bills you've got to actually pay as part of it. All right. So you need to be very, very wary when you're actually setting a price to make sure that you're actually covering your costs. Now, there are also businesses, and a really good example of these are our major supermarkets, where they have so much pressure on suppliers to be able to bring in a product as a lead generator to get you in. I mean, the long and the short of it is, no offence to Mr. Woolies, but he's not offering you Meadow Lee at 99 cents this week because they're good people. All right? He's offering you Meadow Lee at 99 cents this week to get you to come in and buy Meadow Lee, and while you're there to also do your whole grocery shop. And by the way, he's not copying a shortfall on that. He's just saying to the people, the makers of Meadow Lee, you need to supply us with X number of pallets at this price because this is what we're going to do if you want them in our store. Right? So you need to look at those. And the third one is basing it purely around the cost of your competitor. Now again, whilst that can be good because we're all in that same price point, first of all, you're not really giving the customer a real differentiator. It doesn't matter whether they buy from me or whether they buy from my competitor. Okay? So what is your unique selling position? Why should they buy from you? And so by you turning around and tweaking your product or value adding to your product, all right, in some way, shape or form, then you can actually really put a uniqueness to your pricing and your costing and give people a reason as to why they're going to turn around and come to your business. All right? And that can be as simple as something very, very unexpected. We've been spending a lot of time at Prince of Wales, Royal Prince Alfred down in Sydney on Missenden Road, and we actually found this little cafe here called Hoochie Mama's, if anyone's been down that way. And we literally arrived at Hoochie Mama's, and Faye's been in and out having chemo, so my wife's been in and out having chemo and ray treatment and everything like that. And we've been seeing all of these doctors and everything, and we literally arrived here for lunch, and we sat down, and this absolutely gorgeous, chirpy person came out and welcomed us and said good day and everything, gave us the menus. She put 2 glasses down, a bottle of water, and then there was a little compote of French onion dip, 2 celery sticks and 2 carrot sticks, and you just went, I'm home. I can take 5 for myself. I can relax, and you know the food was nice. The food was no nicer than any of the places that we've got here in Bathurst or in Orange. But you felt that you were home. You actually felt like you could relax. And so it's a place now that every time we go down, that's where we go. They've actually won us with their business, with that unique selling position. You know, there are more food outlets on Missenden Road, than there is in the main streets of either Bathurst or Orange. But at the end of the day, it's the service that's going to grab you, and those sorts of things can really make a difference with the price point that you're going to be able to charge. Because at the end of the day, the sweetness of a cheap price is soon forgotten when the product or the service doesn't live up to the expectation of the customer. All of a sudden, yes, it was a discount because it was a second, but then when it breaks, all of a sudden we've got the poos, even though we know it was a second because I turned around and still spent money for it. All right? So, it's not the only way, but as a rule of thumb, these are 3 of the main forms that people actually use when they are pricing and costing their product or their service. So the first one we want to know is, how much does it cost you to provide the product or service? This includes your cost of your product or your service delivery and your total overheads. It also includes your sales and marketing expenses, including FPOS. I still cannot believe the number of businesses that do not take FPOS facilities. And you are absolutely crucifying your business. You really are, because people don't carry large sums of cash around with them anymore. People carry credit cards. And I'm allowed to tell you this story, by the way, but a beautiful little chocolate shop in Canowindra, Cocoa Harvest, and owned by Ross and Matt. They're only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays and public holidays when they're there. The guys were doing okay, but they did not have FPOS. And we finally got them to go with FPOS just before Christmas last year. Their sales have trebled without getting a single extra person walking through the door. Because beforehand, I could only buy with the money that was in my back pocket. Now I can buy what I want because I can use credit card facilities. And so all of a sudden, I've got a friend looking after my dog for me in a couple of weeks when I go away, so I'm going to buy a chocolate for them, and I've got so-and-so coming up, and so-and-so would like that, and I'll buy this and I'll buy that. So, people don't carry cash around with them. And so for businesses, you need to look at that, and you need to build that into your cost structure.
Have you seen that ANZ ad where they're trying to do the honesty box? Was that a bit? No, that's a perch. It's obviously tongue in cheek.
Absolutely. And so it really is. You really do need to embrace that, but you also need to build it into your cost structure. Because if you haven't built that into your cost structure, and all of a sudden you've got 80% of people paying by credit card, you go and take those credit card charges out, and all of a sudden you're down and you don't even realise why. All right, so you actually need to build that in to your pricing structure. Also, your packaging, your credit card fees, your payment gateway charges that you might be there. And look, one of the things, we have no affiliation with these people, but you can now buy the Square Card reader at Officeworks. We're talking $25 here. It plugs into your iPhone and literally turns your iPhone into a credit card machine for $25. Yes, they take 2% of the sale, but it's just going to make your life so much easier. And the first time I actually saw this was actually 2 years ago. My son moved down to Sydney, he's in Cronulla, and he moved into this flat. It's a very 60s block of units, red brick, traditional sort of thing. And there was this leak. You could hear this leak. And I said to myself, we need to get this fixed. So we actually phoned up the real estate agent, And the property manager was very, very pregnant, and so very pregnant she was actually on her way to hospital. And she just said, "You've got $1,000 to get the thing fixed. Keep it under that." "Yep, not a problem. We'll get it fixed for you." And so we actually got 3 guys to come and give us a quote. And the first 2 guys were my vintage, okay? A lot older, 50 plus, stubbies halfway down their backside, the traditional, plumber that we have. And then this young guy rocked up, 24, 5 years of age, and he went under the house. He took his iPad with him and took a couple of photos of the plumbing job and what it was. He said, "Look, here's the problem. It's a dodgy joint. This is what you need to do. We need to cut it off here, put a proper thing on." I said, "How much is that going to cost?" He said, "Hang on a minute." So he opened up a new app, did the costing for me and said this much. It was under the $1,000. "When can you do it?" So I got the parts in the car now. So what have we just got? A big tick, and a big tick. "Great, the job's yours." An hour later, he pops up and he says, "Grave said, how do you want to fix this up?" And I said, "Do you send us a bill?" He said, "Do you have a credit card with you?" I said, "I do." That's when he grabbed out the square card reader, popped it in his phone. I gave him a credit card, swiped, "Thank you very much." He sent me an invoice straight from there, went straight to my email address. He sent himself the one, jumped in the van, and off he went to his next job. By the time he gets home, his paperwork is done. He's not chasing debtors.
And your son's happy.
And he's happy. I'm ecstatic. But everything's done. All right, and it was all built in as part of what he does. All right, so he's not chasing up debtors. He's not having to spend that admin day going through and chasing people that haven't paid their bills. And I forgot to send them an invoice, or I'm sure I did a job for so and so. I wonder what happened here. All of those things that do get lost out there as part of that process. So we need to take that into account. The next one is, how much is the customer prepared to pay? So it is important to think of who they are, how much money that they've got, and how they are going to pay. You know what? We are not good payers face to face. But you know what? We will punch our credit cards into an iPhone or an iPad. Do you agree to the terms and reference? Yes. Have we read them? No. But we all punch it in. But then, we'll say to other businesses, "Oh, can you send me an invoice on that?" But we're quite happy to give our credit card to other people over the phone all the time. Try and get the sale then. Try and get the money there and then as best you can to do that. So people can book a job, punch your details in now, and we'll bill you as soon as the job's done. So you've got those credit card details already there, ready to go. Or you've got your PayPal card reader or your Square card reader on your iPhone or whatever it might be. You get the money, thank you very much, and you move on. But you cannot charge more than the customer's actually got. There's a number of different things, though, that you can do to help soften the blow. So you can ask a customer if they would like to pay. You can say, "Well, part of my trading terms is that you must pay a deposit." All right? And so that's a great way of getting some capital up front so that you can actually use that capital to purchase some equipment that you might need to have, or some of the goods and services that you might need for the transaction. You might have a part payment along the way to help bring that in, and so all of a sudden then we've got the final payment at the very end, so that you're bringing money in along the way, all right, as part of that process. So we need to have a look at how much people are prepared to pay. Customers may see extraordinary value from something that isn't expensive, so you do need to make sure that you know what the costings are, all right? If people can see something, and we always say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but we'll go back to the melting moments that I spoke about a little bit earlier. Here they are, these cookies. We perceive the value when it's just wrapped in a bit of cellophane as only this. But as soon as we get those melting moments in a jar with beeswax on the top and a bit of red and white gingham material, all of a sudden we now perceive the product as something completely different. All right? So the way that you actually package it really is very, very important, the way that you do things. It's sort of like, depending on the nature of your business, your website is a great way of doing that. You want to make sure that on your website and on your Facebook page that you have got it, you make it so easy for the customer to find you. All right? I'm a big fan of a phone number on every single page. There will always come a point in time, as much as we would love people to do inquiries through, send us a message now, etc., there will come a point when people want a phone. They want to speak to somebody. More so regional people than metropolitan people. We want to actually speak to the person that we're going to do business with. Make it easy for them to find you. All right? Don't make it difficult. So we deal with a lot of government websites, and I'm sure some of them are incredibly clever, but they're a shocker to find your way around. They really are. I'd rather do a road test 5 times in a day than have to, use the ATO website. It makes it incredibly hard to get around. All right. So, next one here is, what's the demand and the life cycle of your product or service? So, is what you're selling something that is only available for a short time only? Or is there only going to be a short-term demand for it? Or is it something that goes over a longer period of time? Or do you only have a product that's a single product, but we have to keep on reminding different target groups about our product or service to keep it in the forefront of their mind? What is the number one selling cola drink in the world? Coke. Coca-Cola in Australia spend, in a 12-month period, all right, their 12-month budget is a 1-week budget in America. What they spend in Australia in 12 months is what they spend a week in America to stay number one over Pepsi, where in Australia we go, Pepsi.
There's a significant population difference.
Yeah, there is. But it's big bickies, but they pay big dollars to keep their brand in the forefront of absolutely everything right around the country. All right, as part of that process. So we need to have a look at the lifestyle of our product. We need to make sure that it's a premium product. For example, leading up to Easter, shops can charge a premium price for Easter eggs, but as soon as Easter's finished, obviously the demand falls. Father's Day's finished, so we're going to start seeing Christmas stuff rocking into the stores already, As soon as Christmas is over and done with, Boxing Day, Easter starts coming around, It's the way that it actually works. Okay, then we ask you to have a look at... That is
just your mouse.
Just move your mouse down.
There you go. If it's a new product like technology, for example, the latest iPhone, which we spoke about, customers will often pay top dollar to be the first people to actually own it, and then obviously as it's been out for a long time, it's no longer considered new, the price will drop. And this is what we call price skimming that we spoke about a little bit earlier. We're trying to get a big premium price while the product's hot, while everybody wants it, and then the price will drop down there. So those little spin tops that all the kids had that were going around their fingers, premium price for those there, you can pick them up for 50 cents now. The buzz is gone. In my era it was yo-yos.
Yeah. Comes around every 7 years though.
Yeah, it does indeed. So whatever's old is new again as part of that process. All right, so this is obviously known as price skimming, so that we actually can maximise the price point, so that we can get as much cash as we can whilst the product is in high demand. And then, are you charging GST? All right. For some businesses, they don't need to charge GST because their turnover is under 75,000, but they've actually chosen to register for GST because they want to be able to claim back the input tax credits. Okay, so if you're not registered for the GST, you are deemed to be the end consumer by the ATO. Okay, whereas when you are registered for the GST, you pay the GST, but you get to claim the GST back when you do a business activity statement. Now, one of the things, if you are not a great money manager, is that we do recommend for you is that when you open up your bank account, or you've got a bank account, open up a sub-account and call it your GST account. And then when you bank your money, put 10% into the sub-account, because people look at their account and they forget that 10% of the money that's in there is actually not theirs. It actually belongs to the ATO, and you need to send that off at the end of every financial quarter or monthly, depending on what bank statement that you're doing, or whether you're doing an instalment activity. And so they forget about that, and all of a sudden, they're in the poo. We've also had a number of businesses that have actually spent their GST because their freezer broke down, their fridge broke down, their trailer axle broke, whatever it might be. They're in a situation where they no longer have the cash to be able to pay the GST to the ATO. Just as a tip for everybody here, if there's a problem, just speak to the ATO. Seriously, and I know that sounds really, really scary, but if you just say, look, this is what's happened, I've had to use this money, they will then just put you on a payment plan for what you owe them. The worst thing you can do is hide and pretend that it doesn't matter. In fact, again, we've had a client, who came in one go, he wasn't that old, but he looked 100. He really just, he didn't look a well man. And he had had a lot happen in his life. He'd gone through a marriage breakup, he'd gone through this, that and the other. The long and the short of it is he hadn't put in a tax return for 23 years.
I'm getting fun. Okay.
And the thing that happened in his life happened probably 15 years earlier, and then he just got frightened. And so we put it in the too hard basket. And so I said to him, I said, okay, do you trust me? And he said, yes. I said, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to phone up the guys from the ATO. And he just, I thought he was going to actually pass out on the floor at that point in time. I said, so it's all good. I promise you it's all good. And we actually phoned up the guys from the ATO and we actually told them what had happened. He gave them his story, blah, 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 blah. And I still remember the guy just saying, look, clearly, you haven't tried to defraud us. You've done something about it. You are going to cop a fine, just so you know. However, we can fix this. Now, the thing that was so funny about it was, and he actually did pay a fine, he also got $34,000 back. All right? After the fine. But the thing that was funny, it was about 6 or 8 weeks later, 2 or 3 months after that, I actually passed him in Summer Street and I didn't recognise him. He actually looked young. Like, the weight of the world had just been taken off his shoulders because this thing had just been, pulling him down, and he was a completely different person because all of a sudden. So anything to do with the ATO or anything like that, speak to your business advisor, speak to your accountant, and work with the people to actually get it done. Because at the end of the day, the ATO aren't going to lock you up if you're actually out there. They won't want to get the money. So just work with them to be able to get it done. Do not, under any circumstances, do not charge GST if you are not registered for GST. What would that be classed as? Fraud. Yeah. Where you're actually trying to get an extra 10% when in actual fact you haven't registered to say you are. All right? And also then you would also potentially have people trying to claim back the 10% GST that they've paid out, and then of course they would get investigated as part of it. I've got to tell you, a lot of programs such as MYOB, QuickBooks, etc. are very, very smart these days. They will actually tell you whether you're registered or whether you're not registered for GST now. So you go to punch in the ABN, it'll actually tell you that in the MYOB program. So they're snapping down on people. Okay, how much are your competitors charging? Okay, so it's important to understand what your competitors are charging and, if possible, the reason for that price. There could be, if there's a difference in price, it's important to be able to communicate to the customers the reason for that difference. Now, one of the things that and this is an example that I often use, we've come in and we've got 2 painters, and they've come in and they've said, okay, I say to the guys, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to turn around and I want you to give these walls an undercoat. In fact, you'll probably have to have 2 undercoats, and then I want two top coats on. Okay? So the first guy goes, great, so he measured us all up, and that's what he gives me his quote on. The second guy comes in and I say, this is what I want, and he goes, you know what, these bricks are in really good condition, you actually won't need a second undercoat. All right? So I'm going to quote you just on 1 undercoat, and I think, with the undercoat that I use, 1 top coat will be enough. Oh, okay, well, that's a bit of a saving, isn't it? So therefore, the 2 quotes come in. What's the problem?
One's less than the other.
Yeah, one's going to be less than the other, but why? You're right.
Not the same.
Yeah, you're not comparing apples with apples, you're now comparing apples with oranges. All right? And so ultimately, when your competitors are there and somebody actually says to you, oh, look, your price is a way above. In fact, I would be more proactive than that. One of the things that as soon as you send a quote out, mark it in your diary or put it on your Outlook to phone the customer back. And you come up and you say, hey, Steve, Brucey got a quote for you the other day, just ringing up to see whether you received it or not. Yes, I have, says Steve. Oh, look, I know you're going to be getting other quotes out there. Wouldn't you mind letting me know, am I within the ballpark? Now, Steve's not silly. If he thinks he can get a deal, he's going to say, it was a little bit higher than that. Now, before you start offering any discounts, because that's what people do, it's the knee-jerk reaction to get the job. Can I just check, Steve, is he giving you 2 undercoats? Oh, well, actually, no, he's not. He actually said that we'd be able to do it with 1 undercoat and 1 top coat. Well, is that what you want? Because when I spoke with you, you wanted 2 undercoats and 2 top coats. If that's what you want, I can re-quote for you so that we're actually comparing those prices. Or you might turn around and say, look, I understand why he said that. However, just so you're aware, I could do that for you. I don't like doing that, only because in 18 months' time, what you're going to find is all of that's going to start soaking into the brick and all of a sudden you're going to end up with this motley look around your lecture theatre. Is that what you're after? Oh, so what have you just done?
Confused us.
You've certainly done that, but what have you just done?
Educated the client.
You've educated the client, and now all of a sudden you've planted that seed of doubt in Steve's mind in this example. Is this guy that's just given me the cheapest price, is that actually what I want? Now, at the end of the day, if it's what Steve wants, I can quote on that, and then he can compare the two quotes. And at the end of the day, if the other guy gets the job and I don't, and it's apples versus apples, well, you know what? That's business. All right? But let's make sure that we're both on the same page as part of that process. And then the best line is when he's actually chosen. If he's chosen the other person, well, we want him to choose us. All right? We then turn around and say to him, great, I'm really pleased that you found somebody to do that job for you. If it doesn't work for any other reason, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I'd still love to be able to look after you. So you've just left that little, sliding in there under the thing, and then you hang up the phone and you go, fool. So, yeah. How much are your competitors charging? There's also an app on the ATO website, which, believe it or not, is actually easy to find. But there's actually an app on the ATO website. You need Google Play to be able to download it on there, where you can actually check out competitors' prices for what it is that you do, so you can actually see how you actually price things, okay? So just jump onto the ATO website there. You can use Google Play, the App Store, etc., etc. And it's a great little app there from the ATO. It's free, so jump on there and have a bit of a look. All right, now we move on to costing. So costing is the process of determining the cost of the product or the service that you're going to be selling. And business costs can be divided into two main categories. They are our direct costs and our indirect costs. Just by the nature of their name, what do we think the direct costs might be? Costs that are directly associated with the product, and the indirect costs are all of those other things that people don't see. Okay, so direct cost is the sum of the total material and or labour involved in producing the product or the service. So, for example, in a manufacturing business, it's the material, the cost of raw material and components, including subcontract work involved. It's your labour, the workers directly involved with making the product, the wages of the dressmaker or the carpenter to make the bookshelf or the printer. Expenses relating specifically to the production of that product. All right? These are the direct. For a mechanical workshop, the mechanic's time and the parts that are used on the job. Or in a restaurant, the cost of the food and the cost of the wait staff and the kitchen crew. They're all the direct costs associated with the product or service. Whereas indirect costs are things such as your depreciation of plant and equipment, your repairs and maintenance, your promotion, your advertising, your sales staff, the distribution of your product going out there, the rent that you're paying, the electricity that you're paying, any admin wages costs that might be associated, your bank fees and charges or interest on a loan that you might actually have. They're all indirect costs. So basically, if you can imagine that, we can all do the Titanic, with the direct costs of what you see, but here are the indirect costs that you actually don't get to see as part of what that process is. All right. Come on. Be good. All right. And then here's the cost process. So the process of costing involves two steps, and the first one is adding up all of the business costs that are attributable to the product and service. How much does it physically cost me to make this clicker? How much does it physically cost me to make this, whatever it is that you are making or manufacturing, or the service that you are providing? How much does it physically cost me? And then allocate a proportion of each of the products and services to determine your total cost. So in other words, we go and get our indirect costs, and we add a proportion of our indirect costs to each of our direct costs to then be able to make sure that we've actually covered all of our costs as part of that process. All right. So when we're pricing, we need to look at our target market, our business objectives, our marketing mix, our competitors' pricing, our product cost and service, our demand, and our general marketing trend. That's exactly what we talked about a little bit earlier on. And John's going to give us a couple of examples a bit later on. The next one that we need to have a look at is when we have discounts, when we start marking up and when we start marking down And I've actually given you a handout. Some of you may not have got one yet. Only because when I bring it up on the screen, you're not going to be able to read it. Okay. So our marking up and marking down, our markup should always be in relation to the cost price, while the margin should always be related to the selling price. So here's just an example, and you've got this on your, you've got this on your handout.
Slides will be available.
Sorry. So one of the things, we actually had a client that said to me, Bruce, I've done something wrong. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, I got these dresses in. I said, right. She said, I only put a 20% markup on them. And I said, right. And she said, and they didn't sell. Okay. So I put 20% discount. I went, uh-oh. And she said, what did I do wrong? And I said, well, the 20% discount's on the selling price, not on the cost price. She said, but I only put 20% on. That's why I took 20% off. And I said, yes, but you put 20% on the cost of the goods. So let's say they were $100. You put 20% on, that's $120. Then you took 20% off $120, which is actually $24. You only would have got $96 back. But I only put 20% on. It just took a minute for them to actually, get through to their mind what they did. So it really is important to be able to look at that and to be able to say, okay, well, what are my margins and how much can I actually afford to discount? On the back of that sheet is a little table that you can actually use when you're actually discounting. So, for example, if your percentage of profit margin along the top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, etc., etc., here's our price cut down the side. So let's say we're going to have a 20% discount on a product that we've got a 30% margin on. Therefore, this thing works, 20% discount on 30% margin, we're going to have to sell 500 more items just to get the same profit that we had before we did the discount. 200. Sorry, 200. Yeah, 200. Look at the wrong one. 200. Before we actually get the same profit that we did before we even had the discount. All right. And as a business advisor, one of the things that I often say to people is, as soon as you discount, all right, and I know John's going to talk a bit more about this afterwards, but as soon as you discount, what have you just done? Devalued. Well, you've devalued, but you've also just set the new market price, the new floor price. Because the trouble is, human nature is, once I've only paid this for it, I never want to pay that for it again. Human nature. Alright? And so one of the things that John's going to talk about a bit later on is how we can actually value add as part of that process. Alright, so there are some different methods of pricing that we need to take into account, and there are three main that we tend to use. There are more than this, but cost-based pricing, where we actually work around the cost of the product or service. The second one is the demand-based pricing. What is the demand for the product or service? And the third one is basing it around the competition. And we've spoken about the advantages and disadvantages already of each of those methods. So what you find is that the demand method will be the selling price, the competition base will indicate where at the range it should be, and the cost base is the floor price. Okay, this is how much we have to get back for our product or service just to be able to break even. So here's a couple for pricing for online sales. Online sales in Northern America represent 62% shares of online sales per country, per population. Latin America, 52%. Oceania, Australia, 51.8% of the population have purchased online. Alright. If your business is not online, there's 50% of the Australian population that are purchasing online that are not getting access to your business in any way, shape or form, even to check you out. Alright? And then we actually had a question yesterday, so I've thrown in a slide that wasn't here in yesterday's session. I don't know what's happening here. What is the number one reason why people abandon a shopping cart? Well, the number one reason is that there was unexpected or hidden fees and charges. So I was going to buy it, and I clicked through to the shopping cart, and all of a sudden, plus $29.99 postage and handling, and then we abandon the shopping cart. 58% of people will abandon a shopping cart when there are hidden fees and charges. And there are some other ones, such as I was only browsing, the computer crash, blah, 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 blah. But the number one reason is hidden fees and charges. So if you can actually bring in those fees and charges, knowing that you're going to lose a bit on this order, gain a bit on that order, swings and roundabouts, and you can actually have free delivery, you've got a really good chance, 95%, of actually making that sale online and actually increasing your sales accordingly. The last one we're going to just quickly brief about is your break even. I cannot believe the number of businesses that do not know how many units, how many products, how many services they need to provide each week just to pay the bills before you pay yourself. There is a law that says you must pay your employees. There is no law that says you have to pay yourself. And let me tell you, I can tell you, and I'm sure every business advisor around can actually tell you, business owners, and I'm sure you even know them, who staff are taking home more money than you are as a business owner. Because you do not know your break even and how much it is that you actually need to generate each week just to be able to pay your bills. So there's a couple of examples. Now Christine is also going to shoot this presentation out to everybody. So you'll actually have a copy of all of these. There's a little scenario here. We haven't got enough time to go through it. But basically we've got our fixed costs down the bottom of this example of $40,000. So if we flick over to a break even point, here's our $40,000 over here, going up to our break-even point. We're selling our items at $200 each. Here's our unit of sales. And with our income and our unit of sale, we've got to sell 500 units before we hit break-even. If we can actually increase our sales by $50 and the average selling price is our $250, we've still got our 40,000 fixed costs. We only have to sell 400 items to break even just by increasing that price point that little bit more. So it really is very important. There are a number of businesses that say to me, very proudly, unfortunately, I haven't had a price rise in 3 years. And my standard response is, well, more fool you. All right? Do wages go up? Yes. Everything goes up. People will notice a big price rise in 2 or 3 years' time. They will not notice, or they will more likely accept a small price rise on a regular basis. All right, on a regular basis. Our bills are going up, we need to. I mean, everybody knows, just a really good example, we all know that electricity prices have gone up. So every business is now paying probably at least half, again, what they are depending on the nature of the industry. I've actually got a bakery that's their bills doubled. All right? We're actually able to help a business, again in Grenfell, this particular cafe, we actually were able to save them $800 a year with a $15 Bunnings timer. I kid you not. We actually put a $15 Bunnings timer on the drink fridge. And the drink fridge goes off at 10 o'clock at night, and the drink fridge doesn't come back on until 10 o'clock in the morning. There's no perishable food in there, and they are saving 12 hours of electricity every single day from their drink fridge in their cafe. Nobody's opening the doors between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning. The drinks aren't even really getting warm. But every single day, they are saving, every single day they are saving 12 hours worth of electricity. And with electricity being a big expense, isn't that $800 better off in your pocket than it is being sent off to whoever your energy supplier is, no names being mentioned. All right, so that brings us to the very end of our presentation. Has anyone got any questions that they would like to ask, including Orange?
Orange, any questions?
No, all good.
Heather, what are you doing? How are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Really good. Any questions for Bruce?
I think just a comment, like you spoke about reducing your price and the impact that has on the business performance, how many additional units you have to sell. But in order to grow your top line in terms of volume,
Yep.
The experience I've had in the marketplace nationally is that wholesalers or distributors want 35% discount on the wholesale price.
Yep.
And you can negotiate, but in the end you lose that sale and you lose all that customer base. So the market does dictate.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It absolutely does. But I guess one of the things just to be very mindful of is that whilst you might have to discount here, you don't have to discount everywhere. When I had a Pizza Hut restaurant for nearly 17 years, And Pizza Hut had a policy back then. If your pizza was 10 minutes late, you got $3 off. For those people that could remember that policy that was around. I never, ever, ever gave anybody $3 off, and I'm not telling you my pizzas weren't late. So first and foremost, we would always phone the customer back and just say, hi, it's Bruce from Pizza Hut here, or whoever it was. Just a courtesy call to let you know that your pizza's on its way. Great, thank you very much. 90% of the customers thumbs up. But there was that 10%, oh, we get $3 off. Yep, you can have $3 off, or if you would prefer, we'll give you a free 1.25 bottle of soft drink and a garlic bread. Every person took the bottle of soft drink and the garlic bread because the value to them was greater than $3. But a bottle of soft drink only cost me 66 cents and a garlic bread cost me 33 cents. So I was $2 better off giving them the garlic bread and the bottle of the drink, which was only costing me $1, as opposed to giving them $3 off. So it's looking at ways that we can value add rather than to discount, and just also keeping we get so busy in our business working with our head down and our tail up, we forget to work on our business. We forget to re-engage with customers that have been loyal to us over the years. And it's not that we have forgotten about them, we've just been so busy working in the business. And, one of the examples I was giving the guys the other day when we were doing this presentation was my wife had a business with Mary Kay Party Plan, and when our daughter got very, very ill, she went up to Westmead Children's Hospital with Erin, and I just said to her, I said, wait, what's happening with your Mary Kay? She said, don't worry about it. I said, you've got 150 customers. We can't not look after these people. So we went and bought a whiteboard up at Big W about this big, had it up on the wall with all of the product listed and the prices on the side. And then people would phone and they'd come up and say, oh, is your wife there? And I'd say, no, but I'm here and can I help you? I just want to order some Mary Kay. And I'd say, I can help you. And then the voice would change. Okay, what would you like? Just after a foundation. I said, what would you like? Light beige, honey beige? I'm going down the list here. I said, I have light beige, please. They go, okay, would you like that powder perfect or liquid formation? Oh, powder perfect, please. And so I do this order up. Would you like me to deliver that? Are you going to pick it up from the BEC? And this went on for about, 2 months, I suppose. And then the stock was getting a bit low. So one weekend I actually went into Faye's card file and I phoned up every single one of her customers, 150 customers over a weekend. And the phone call literally went, hi, it's Bruce here, I'm Faye's husband. She's away sick with our daughter who's very sick at the moment. I'm just placing a Mary Kay order for a few clients. It's a courtesy call to see if you would like something. And I placed a $5,000, that's a 10,000 retail, 5,000 wholesale order with Mary Kay just by phoning customers back. I was also named Queen of Sales for the month. Nobody sold more Mary Kay than I did, but I got a watch actually. It's surprising what you can do with that. But rather than discounting, so somebody turns around and says, rather than buying this and saying, okay, well I'm going to give you a 20% discount, is what's the cost of that 20%? So let's say it's $20 or $50 or $100. Is there an additional product or an additional service that you can provide that's cheaper than that $20, even if it's the same cost, to be able to get that there? So you're just using your Mary Kay. If I can, instead of giving them a 20% discount on a basic skincare, if you can give them a free full-size lipstick or you can give them a free full-size eyeshadow and get another product on their face, and if they're happy with that, they'll buy that again next time.
Yeah.
So what else can you value add to actually increase the sale next time? And that's the way, because you are right, you're always going to have suppliers wanting that discount. So how can we get around that the other way? I've gone over time.
No, keep going.
All right. Okay.
More questions?
Jono.
Say just next year we have a recession, and people don't have the same sort of money to buy your product.
Yep.
Be the same kind of a thing. Like maybe you can offer, rather than discount, like rather than lower your pricing.
Yep.
Just sort of try and give them extra.
Look, there are a number of different ways that you can do things, all right? So before you lower your price point, just look at different ways that you might be able to engage with the client. So one of the things that we do, we're a registered training organisation, and to do an accredited course that's not part funded or anything like that, you're looking at about $2,500, right? $2,500 to $3,000. Now, I don't know too many people that have got a spare $2,500, $3,000 sitting in their account that they can just turn around and pay for a certificate for in leadership and management, all right, or workplace health and safety. So what we do is we offer a payment plan. So you can actually pay that off. Now, you're not going to get your certificate until it's all paid off, okay, because that's the golden carrot at the end of the rainbow. But we have never, ever yet had a defaulter on a payment plan. But it's the one thing that's ensured that instead of only having 2 or 3 people in the class, we've now got 8 or 10 people in the class because it's cost effective for them to do. So what I actually do is I charge them $250 up front, which is the cost of the manual. So if I don't get to see another cent from them, at least I've covered the cost of the manual. I mean, I've got to stand up the front of the classroom whether there's 2 people or 200 people in the classroom. All right? And so then they just pay $50 a week, a fortnight, whatever it might be that they're doing in their particular payment plan. So it's really looking at what you've got to offer and what the customer can afford. There may be margins that you're putting there. One of the things that if you were going to do that, what I would actually say to your customers is you have been such a loyal customer to us and we are doing tough times. So for this year only, I'm actually going to give you a 10% just to be able to make it a 10% discount just to be able to make it that little bit easier because we really want to look after those people who have been loyal to us and really sell it on that way rather than just having a flat 20%. You know, there are people now who will not buy from any retail shop anywhere until there's a sale because there are sales all the time. And you know what? You walk, I've never seen one in regional areas, but in metropolitan, walking down Pitt Street, there are 70% off sales in retail stores. Now, what is the incentive to buy at full price?
Can't they do?
Absolutely.
Never pay full price. Can't they do ever?
You know, at the end of the day, we're not going to go. No offence, but we're not going to go into Harvey Norman until we've actually got the 2 years interest-free terms. And you know what? Even when they're not advertising it, they've actually got it.
So you spoke earlier about capacity to pay.
Yep.
So we've got a product, for instance, that costs $45. The idea is that if we can create a smaller version of the product that is $15, then that opens up a new market.
Absolutely.
To grow the top line.
Yep.
That's a good example of.
That's a really good example.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? Again, you might even have the best product and service. It might be just a matter of repackaging it in a different way to a brand new target market. You know that's out there. We had a young guy in Condobolin, which is one of the areas that we cover, and he started a little lawn mowing business. And he did all the right things, but he got no bites of the cherry whatsoever. And he phoned up, he's saying, they shut the business. And I said, we're going to shut the business for? And he said, oh, nobody wants to, blah, 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 blah. He was a young Indigenous guy, actually, and his immediate reaction was, I think it's because, you know, I'm Aboriginal. And I said, that's a load of crap. Come on, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. I said, I got a job for you. And he said, really? I said, yep. And he said, what are we going to do? And I said, we're actually going to mow the lawn of the nursing home. And he said, how much are they paying? I said, nothing. I'll pay for the petrol, but you're going to mow the and I won't tell you his exact words of what he said. BS with the 2 initials. And he said, why would I do that? And I said, because I'm going to have the Condo News there taking a photo of you. Yeah. And he was on the front page of the Condo News. Don't get excited, it's like an A3 bit of paper folded in half. All right, but he was on the front page of that, mowing the nursing home, free of charge, and from that, he picked up 8 jobs. Why? Because he's a good bloke. Because if he's going to do that for free, you know, I'll do it. And so one of the things that we want to be able to do is to create that relationship marketing, work within the ecosystem of our town and our community by supporting those different things that are going on and those charitable things that are going on. That's probably more effective. I'm going to get struck down. It's going to be more effective marketing than potentially putting it out in a paper or, I'm going to get struck down, or on the radio or something like that.
Magazines are very different.
Yeah, magazines are very different. Yeah. But looking at that, and so, you know, it can be a great way of engaging with the community and letting people know what they do. Regional people like working with good people. You know, it's all about association. In Sydney, it's not. It's all about association here. And so being part of the community is such an important part. So for those businesses that are here, if you're not a member of your local business chamber, join. It really is a very, very valuable tool to be able to network with other people within business people who are like-minded, and when you actually go to chamber meetings, and I'm not a shareholder in the chambers or anything like that, but don't just go for the sake of going to a meeting. Talk to people, let them know what you do, and let people know how you can actually help them. And actually, that's what networking is all about. It's not just about rocking up and saying, well, what do you do? And here, have a business card. I mean, business cards aren't cheap. So, make sure that you actually get out there and let people know what you do. Let people know what you're talking about. And then use the media. If you're able to provide a product or a service to a charity or something like that, they're not going to turn around and do a story on Bruce Buchanan. But they will do a story on the charity and the fact that you have provided a service to that charity. So we had a lady over in Mudgee, and she actually has, I kid you not, she's actually got 164 chooks. All right? And we had a new business starting who was doing pet minding, and she was actually telling us about this. This lady was her first client, and I said, "There's the story." And she said, "What, for my business?" I said, "No, the chooks." And she was actually on this old lady, not the business owner, but this old lady was here in the middle of the Mudgee Guardian, or the Weekly as it was called back then, the Wednesday paper, with all of these chooks surrounding her, and the story was, who will feed my chooks? All right, and then the story about this lady going in for a knee operation, blah, 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 blah. Fortunately, there's a new business in Mudgee called blah, 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 and they're going to be looking after the chooks. But it was the human interest story, but she got the arm to come in there and do it. So look at all of those different methods, and there are so many people with experience out there that you can tap into to be able to help you as part of that process. And look, use your business advisors. Get yourself a business coach. Use things. We've got, Gunther's Lane here. We've got an incubator about to open upstairs, like this year. It's the latter half of this year, but it's not that far away in all sincerity. I mean, seriously, Christmas is like 10 weeks away, 16 weeks away. But it's opening up. There's so many opportunities for people to be able to grow their business, so really tap off the wealth of each other. All right, so thank you very much. Oh, Wendy.
What's an incubator?
Oh, an incubator is it's basically, do you like a chicken incubator? Okay, so it's the same sort of thing. So it's a protected environment, so it's a business environment where you can come and there are business advisors there. There's wireless broadband where you can actually come along, network with other business people and use it basically as a home office, but just your little area within this place. And so the whole idea is, and there's seminars and there's workshops and there's guest speakers and things like that where you can actually come together to hatch your business. And it doesn't mean, it's also for startup businesses. It's also for existing businesses that want to take their business from here to the next level. And CSU's involved in that. Bathurst Business Chamber's involved in that. Reliance, it's an initiative of Reliance Bank. I believe the New South Wales government's also kicked in some money with that. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah.
As part of that process. So, there's a whole gamut of have the Feds done some there as well?
I don't think so.
Okay, right. We won't give them a plug. Then. I better go, buddy.
Can you please put your hands together?
Thank you.
Now, there's probably a couple of things that we heard from Bruce in relation to, if you want to know more about the Business Chamber, please come talk to me in the break or afterwards. If you want to buy Mary Kay, please go and see Bruce. We're going to have a 5-minute break while we change over to get John set up. So if you want to have a comfort break, grab another coffee or tea and be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, good.
Did you take mine? Yeah, just the clicker. There's anyone who wants to use some sheets if you want to
Yeah.
No.
It's fine, I'll
We're going to come to break down.
With a crowd of people, talking over crack your feet.
I sell
7.25.
I haven't worked out my price. Well, this is perfect.
I think I know you.
No, I actually recognise that because of the beard.
Beard's back.
Yeah, we've incorporated.
70.
I can recommend it very much so. Yes. What are you starting, Vicky?
So that's really good.
What are you? Well, so we've got the food, we've got the alcohol.
And if I try and charge up here, so in value add,
Okay.
we get to 5 lessons in one
Now
transaction.
looking to go into the farmers markets.
10 lessons.
I've got 5 cafes on the go and I'm only one person. Demand's getting quite right.
Not saying you can have.
Oh, like lemon marshmallows, lotus, and lumberjack, and what else? It just, yeah, right, yeah, and I've got one cafe that said to me,
Buy a 10 lesson package this month, not even $25 for a card. The cost to me.
I know that I've locked in with them. Great, that's lovely. And I've got
Correct. Tax deduction. That's got to be the angle. Absolutely. Because they, the competitors won't.
That would be funny. Sweet Treats Connection. Like, that I've got no idea. That's why. Okay. So I'm just. We've got some interesting people here, right? Interesting. So, your names again? Kerry and Russell. And Vicky.
Before I Russell, did you use the branding things?
I sell to local cafes, make slices and biscuits, and I have a port brandy chocolate fruit cake that I make.
Please.
I made 4 years ago. I'm making it all year round.
Right.
And I'm wanting to get into a higher level.
You can actually do that. You can do that. You can take over the world. You can.
I'm looking at building, a commercial kitchen in our garage.
Yes. Great.
And just sort of, I've got to work out my costings because I thought this is perfect, this workshop, because I haven't worked out my costings, but I've been out there selling for 10 years. And,
making profit, but
making profit,
narrow it down.
Yeah.
You need a website or Facebook. People need to go that way. You need a website because I need one now.
I know. I know.
So you can be like huge. You can sell to David Jones.
Yeah.
People get sick of the same old disgusting bits of cake.
I know. We're like dry. We're like all the icing's a string, but all that's really dry. Because I'm trying to work out where did these cakes come from? They should be coming from me.
They could be coming from you. Could. And then we have alcohol too. Distillery, yeah.
Yes. Trail or something. That'd be good. Talking into brand orange as well, and they're talking about me going to Sydney markets. But I'm still happy. And I'm like,
you can do it.
The wholesale is good.
Sleep is underrated.
Yeah,
you're still young. You can do it.
I know the wholesale
do it now.
market is enough for me, and it's and they're all saying they're all building. Their businesses are building now, and they want to know that I'm locked in with them.
Okay. You still need to brand yourself, so you're
I know. I was talking to a lady last night in the supermarket. I met her, and then she's got a brand. $30 an hour. Privately. And because I thought, she sounds like the lady that I need. Another lady I was looking at, she's not a real people person. She's quite abrasive, only wants to know you when there's something in it for her. And I don't. Sounds a bit difficult. I can't see that we can work together.
Roll. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you.
But that's exciting. The brand orange. She'll coach my taxi goodies up to office. And they were trying my samples and telling me I really be out there. I had this business name and I've just got no idea. I've got to have someone that I connected with last night. She was saying that, she can sit down with branding. She's $30. Just right, just on hand. She has a full-time job.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start in a minute's time. So I'd like to do this.
It's really, because I think, in the business, I've got to have and then
do that. They did say there was a help at not touch. It's too dangerous. I always touch the wrong
Well, just not using it, yeah.
See any of this one? Brief description.
So, I've been on with them.
What kind of might be first?
Right, I've emailed them, I've rung them. They go with an email. And I had it all bagged up, ready.
All ready to go?
Honey, no, what the heck?
Okay, Orange people, we're starting in 1 minute's time.
Great talk.
Bathurst to Orange.
Great, yeah, because I think we all,
They can hear us. Oh, I'm leaving. Bathurst to Orange.
Hello.
We'll be starting in a minute's time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey Steve, I've got a really important question for you.
Oh, yeah?
Turn the heating up?
Turn it, no, they keep it cold so you stay awake. I'm not really sure actually, Ross, to be honest.
I can't believe that answer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why they do it. I have been told that before. One of them, oh, that's mine. Yeah. Get these people in.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, with the. Yeah.
Okay, we're about to start. Early start means we go home early. No, really.
How are you, mate? Good.
I'll just use the glass.
Yeah, I like it.
On this.
Let's have it on. I'm going to get around that bit. I like supporting
Yeah, well, it just homogenises it.
Yeah, it does. Correct.
Yeah.
It's all gone to the head now.
About there.
TV But do you read it?
All ready to go?
Really? I've locked the doors.
Lock the doors. Can't get out. Okay.
He's going to give us a promo.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just before we go into our next speaker, Bruce mentioned about getting involved in the community. one of the wonderful things we have in Bathurst is the Bathurst City Life. Orange have Orange City Life. And it's an amazing community magazine for people to get involved with. And we've just had a water accident here.
It was water.
Right there, Zoe?
It's only water.
It's only water?
It was hot water.
Oh, no, it was hot water.
It's okay.
That's right, Ingrid. I usually spill coffee on them. They're used to it, so it's all good. So I just wanted you to notice here, there's a young business person there holding a couple of ducks. We have the Great Duck Race on the 24th of September coming up as a fundraiser for our Rotary Club. Oh, yeah, it's me. Okay, it's not so young. But anyway, just to show you. So it's a great idea. So whatever communities you're involved in, that's the sort of thing that you can do to get some free promotion and help the community out. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. John Burke. John has worked in technical and management roles in both national and multinational enterprises and has consulted for a wide variety of small and large national and international companies. John has an MBA and is a fellow of the Australian Marketing Institute. John believes that pricing is the most important facet of the marketing mix. Thank you. It's that time of night, isn't it? However, over the years, he has found that businesses generally treat their pricing in an ad hoc manner, and isn't that so true? With the dartboard method being a common practice. His crusade to change this attitude and implement a proper pricing process has led to developing a strategic pricing course which to date has had over 1,000 graduates. Can you please put your hands together for the amazing John Burke?
Thank you, Steve. Now, I have a bad throat. I'm a little worried that you can hear me okay up the back. Yes. Mark, can you hear us?
No trouble at all, John.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And you can wander around a bit too.
I can wander. Okay.
I don't really wander too much.
All right. So thank you very much. Nice to be in Bathurst. I was in Parks yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've been to Bathurst, so I come from Sydney way up the coast there. But I have to say, it's so peaceful. I'm so relaxed. Just a sore throat. But apart from that, it's nice to be here. All right. So we've got a really good mix of people here. You know, today, when I was just a few of you that I've met, I got, this is really good. It's great to have a good mix. So the overview is just really what I'm thinking that we'll cover. So pricing considerations, psychology of pricing, price response function, pricing approaches, cost dynamics, and a bit of legal at the end. Okay. What I want to say, just to start off with, is that I've got to talk generically because your businesses are so, you know, they're wide, they're varied. So business to consumers, business to business, or business to government. So anything I'm talking about, we can relate it to your individual businesses. And the way you just need to have it in your mind, okay, how do I relate that to my business? And when I'm talking about goods and services, so that applies to you. So if I'm talking about a good, you can still relate that to a service. We're talking about the same principles. And the thing about, I do a lot of study in the academic world of reading all the theories about pricing, and what I find is I've learned, one of the things that we've experienced is that you cannot just say, okay, that theory is the only way you can do it. Because in pricing and in reality in the real world, because I do consult with pricing in the real world, that it's a lot of grey. So you do need to understand the principles and think about how you can apply it, but it may or not be appropriate in each case. So anything that I'm discussing, you need to take that on board every time you go to price something, okay? So the other thing is that, which is a big advantage, I find, that you know your business best. I don't know it, okay? But I can tell you, as a pricing consultant, when I go in somewhere, that is a huge advantage because I look at your business completely different. So take on board with the area like Bruce, you know, and other consultants out here, Steve, that when they look at a business, those fresh eyes can make a massive difference. So take that on board. But you know your business. All right. So Bruce mentioned that this is the theory side, that we have the 4 Ps. So product, price, promotion and place. The additional ones are the service piece, so we're adding to that. So people, process and physical evidence. But when I'm referring to product, I'm using product as a good service or idea offered to the market for exchange. Okay, so when I say product, I'm talking about a good or a service. All right. My thing when I talk to companies about pricing is how much effort do you put into pricing? Sure, it's a big worry, but how much effort do you put into it? Time and effort to actually think about the pricing itself. What do we do about it? How do we go about it? And this is not in any order except for the one down the bottom, but to say about all those basic marketing mix, do we put pricing right down the bottom? And the probably answer is yes when terms of time and effort. You get a product in, if you're a retailer, you get a cost in, you go, oh, they're selling it over there for this, and I think we can probably get this price, let's put it out at that price. Fair enough. So that's a very common method. Excuse me. But I like to think that after today, after hearing Bruce and myself, that you'll put it up here a bit more and put a bit more importance on price. Pricing is a big concern, and if you're dealing with, say, the consumer base, you know, we're deciding about, we've got to get our dollars in, we've got to set a price, and the consumers have got their own problems. So they're you know, Bruce mentioned, we've got the electricity problem, we've got all the bills now, and we've got to fight for their spare dollar, which is getting a little bit tighter and tighter. Did you hear today, I think, that on the way in on the radio, that I think resale sales have dropped a bit today. I think they've just released those figures. So, you know, it is a tough world out there, and savings have also been dropping. So people's cash is less and less available, and we have to work out, okay, how do we fight for that business? We need to survive as business people. You guys are employing other people, so it's very important that we keep our business going. And for our point of view as a business, we've got to work out what dollars pricing we set our prices, how much profit we're going to make, and then we've got all these other concerns about all our competitors, such as Amazon. Okay? But now, I hope you appreciate this. It took me hours to do this. Okay? So, it took hours. But one thing that we know about Amazon, they are successful. We definitely know that. Are they the cheapest? No, they're not the cheapest. So why are people buying off them? Okay? What is it about Amazon that makes that different? I'm not going to go on about Amazon today, but really, we know one thing about Amazon. You order off them, you'll get it. Fair enough? And you'll get it pretty quick. And you'll get it pretty quick. So that's the point. So some people say, oh, how can you beat? It's not just price. Why can't you do the same thing? Number one. So they're not always the cheapest on the market. So, especially around here. My feeling with pricing, I have to say this is absolutely true. The more you know about pricing, the harder it is to price something. It's so much easier not to have the knowledge that goes around in my damn head. I can tell you. Because someone will come to me and say, oh, John, we just want you to price this item for me. But the problem is their list and my list is this long, so I've got to try and then think about everything that I know about pricing to be fair to the client. So, okay, this is what it is. So I'm going to show you some of that list today and adding on what Bruce said, but it's only this much of it. So don't feel scared about it, but it is really important that we know it. There's our dartboard. That's not Bruce's dartboard. Nothing to do with Sally today, but here. But that the dartboard method is a common method of picking price. You know, just saying, okay, we'll put it about here, but without much thought. So ideally, let's try to put that behind us and don't go that method and really think about how we do our pricing. So what I try to encourage is people to build a pricing mindset. That means getting one like mine, which drives you crazy. So really, really thinking about pricing, breaking down all the particular things that we need to consider when we're pricing. So Bruce had a slide which he showed with his graphs there about the power of pricing. It's really in a similar way, that just a simple example, just so we know why it's important, that if a product costs $50 and we're selling it for $100, we sell 10 units, of course we make $500 profit. But if we reduce that to $90, then we have to sell 12.5 units to achieve the same profit. So dropping prices is a big problem, isn't it? It means we've got to replace it. How do we make profit? It's pretty easy. It's only a few elements, isn't there? What are the elements? We've got our sale price, we've got our cost and our volume. So if we're going to reduce our price, we've got to either reduce our cost or increase our volume. So, it's not easy. And it works in reverse, and a lot of people forget it really works in reverse. If you can increase your prices, number one, you should be increasing your prices just even above CPI, because if you're not doing that, you're going backwards anyhow. So you need to keep pushing your prices up. And also your costs. Bruce pointed out all your costs are going up, all your indirect costs are going up. So if we increase our price just to $110, okay, just an extra 10, then we only have to sell 8.3 units. Okay, so just something to think about. All right, this question, I just want you to think about it now. What considerations and options should a business look at when pricing a product? So what do you think? What do you think now that you should consider? Do you want to we just put together some list? What do you think? What's something that's on your mind?
Cost to make it.
Okay, cost to make it. That's good. Yep.
That's competition.
Competition.
The
Yep.
demographic.
Demographics. Yep. That's
Customer's
good.
budget.
Customer's budget.
Operational costs.
Operational costs.
And the auxiliary costs, staff and
Yep.
transport.
Yep.
Profit you want to make?
I like that. That's good, Steve. Yep. Profit you want to make. Yeah. Okay. So we've already got a list this big, right? And you're thinking about that. I'd like, as we go forward, and you think about tonight, and perhaps you'll read it on certain things, that you'll develop a list this long. Okay. And that's your considerations. And it does drive you crazy, but the end results are better for you. So putting that extra thought in, even if it's an extra day or two into pricing something, when you have time. Now, time we know in business, particularly small business, is very difficult. And you can't do it on all products, by the way. So if I don't get a chance to mention it later, that perhaps you've got a range of products and you can't physically do what I'm trying to teach you on every single product. You just can't. So you may want to pick 5 or 10 products and focus on them, and then go to the next 5 or 10 products. Right? Because you're collecting all this data, and the data is obviously your costs, as you mentioned, your competitors, what the customer wants to pay and everything, all those other things. And then you've got to make those considerations, put that all together and determine a price, it's a tough job to do, and you never know if you got it right. Is it? So, but at least we'll have some more tools to go about. The first thing when you do pricing, the most important thing is fitting into your strategy and price positioning. Okay, what is your overall strategy or business? Where do you want to sit in the market in terms of your position against your competitors? You need to have that clear and consistent. If you think about Apple, I saw an Apple thing here, but it's disappeared. Like even just an Apple cable. What is one thing about Apple pricing? It's generally, is it higher than the competitor? Okay, it's always here, right? But in general, though, it's a fairly steady. We know their position in the market. They're about here, whether it's their small little cable or their phone. They are very, very consistent. And what's it tell the customer too? They know what the business is about. So being consistent is very important. But that follows back from the strategy and your positioning, overall positioning. So you've got to be thinking about that when you're pricing. What is my strategy? What is my positioning? Is my pricing going to fit into that? So don't forget that part of it. You imagine if a new guy started at Apple and they got a cable and he said, in this item, I don't know what it is. Let's use this. Okay, whatever this. We put it in and the new guy just ignores the strategy. He adds up his costs. He does a bit of research. He says, we could sell this for $10. But that's not going to fit into Apple's strategy, because if this had an Apple brand on, I'm assuming it would be $50 on it, or 60 or something, okay? So fitting in pricing, we need to fit into the strategy, and that's only one little bit of pricing, okay? But it's something very important. Part of pricing is not to forget about the strategy and positioning. All right. Now, another thing, and just a basic thing, which I heard value mentioned before, which is right. We all know value. In fact, I remember looking up value, and I think I found 17 different versions of a meaning for value. All right, but you have a right concept that customers handing over money, they're getting something in return, right? If some text, and a lot of texts will say perceived benefits minus the perceived price, it gives us the value. But so at the end of the day, we've got a product. We're trying to sell it to a customer's handing over money, they're getting something back, fair enough, and they're also then comparing us to our competitors' products and what their offering is, okay? Now I'm going to break down value a bit more, and this is the part, I've got a lot of employment slides, I always say important, don't I? So, but look, because of I've been given a certain amount of time to do these presentations, I picked some of the stuff that I feel is vital to know. So coffee's a good one to use because I love coffee, okay? And secondly, that of course they're selling it good, but they're also the service part, okay? They're a good mix there. So let's imagine just a coffee shop. What's important to a customer? Okay, I put a few up here, but I've just done an example here. When someone is ordering a coffee and they get the coffee, is it just the coffee? No, it's not just the coffee, and that's part of this value. So what else fills that value? Yes, it's the coffee, and we could say it's the taste, it's the speed of the service. What did I put up there? Cleanliness, friendliness, variety. What else could be there on that list?
Taking your own cup along.
Let you take your own cup along. Convenience.
I like the little lid that's got, like, if you're a 2-year-old.
Yep.
I'm usually
the non-dribble
drinking coffee when I'm driving.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I don't need it spitting
I agree.
out my mouth.
I agree with that. So good lids, yes.
Just want to give an example of a new coffee shop here that's opened up. It's only been open up 2 weeks. And as I was handing out my How to Vote cards around the businesses, I finally got to this coffee shop and I was just about had it. And I dragged myself through the door and they could see I was a little bit distressed. I said, what would you like? A flat white, please. While I was waiting for the flat white, they poured me a little double shot of coffee, which they gave to me. Incredible customer service and telling me about all the different things they're going to do with this new shop. Quite amazing. So I'll be going back there. It was,
That's good. All right. So that's great. That's good. But
was it Ristretto?
Yeah. Sorry, Ross, I couldn't remember the name of it. But
Yeah.
sounds very good. So I haven't looked after you. But
amazing.
So when we're thinking about value, and you think about what you're offering your customers, it's you've got a product, got a price out there, and they're getting something in return. And I mean, it could be just you are sending out a physical product, okay? But it's your fast service, your delivery, the way the phone is answered, the way the payment plan is, all those different things. They're all the different attributes out there. And I've just done a simple example there. I picked 5 there. And I've said it is possible to, with a lot of study, and you can then get a ranking. In that example there, I've ranked it out of 10. So asking a whole customer base, doing a survey for taste, 10 out of 10, speed, 7 out of 10. You can see that their cleanliness, etc., out of 10. But that's where a lot of people stop, and there's something missing in this simple equation. And the next part is this part here. It's the weighting is super important. Okay, it's how important is taste. So not how good you are at it, but how important. What's that value? If we even think of a spinning wheel or something that has all these pies in there, okay, they're not equally split, are they, between taste and speed and all that? They're not equally split, and we need to try and work out from our customers, whoever they are, whether it's business customers or consumers, how that pie is actually split that forms value. So in this example here, I've made this up, of course. But taste is not as important as speed and cleanliness, okay? And then we've got friendliness and variety. So that's not for that particular store, it's just in general, what is important to you, okay? And then rating that store. And if I again go back to, previously they got 80%, using the weighting 75%. Now, it's a very simple method. There's a lot of complex methods. I find this method easy to show. It's easy for a business to think about how we are doing, what's important to the customer. The big thing is you need to find out how that value wheel is broken up. You know your business, but what a lot of businesses, and this is a huge problem, businesses assume, let's pick this example here. Businesses assume that the taste of the coffee is the most important thing. But what if it wasn't? Have you ever asked the customers what's important to you? And you need to then, you can see that. Otherwise, you're focusing on this stuff, trying to build value that way, but it's not actually adding value because you haven't worked on the things that's important to the actual customer. So you need to always, yes, we know our business, but maybe we don't know our customer as well as we think we know our customer. So so they're handing over that money. You've got to give them back value, but how do you know what value is unless you actually investigate it? So you need to investigate what value is. So, and then if you like, you can then plot this. Now I'm just going to show you a method that I teach, which is a very simple method here to do with perception. Now ignore this price down here at the moment. I can't read this screen. Sorry, there's a screen here. I cannot read it. It's too blurry for me. So I've sort of said the one I just did there was your shop, your coffee shop, and I've just made up a couple here. Just put it straight in line because I'm not doing the price yet. Just take that away. All right. So then it's possible then to ask about price. Now you see those words there. Oop. What did I do? Now I need my glasses. Hang on.
Where's the screen? Yeah,
okay. Okay. Then you can see its perception here. So look, this is it's very valuable. So this word perceived. Number one, let's say you are fast at your business. You really serve coffees quick. That doesn't mean zip unless the customer actually understands and knows that you serve it quick. So it's a perception of that. Do you appreciate that side of it? So not only do you need to know what's important, you need to let them know that how fast you are or something. You need to get back to them because they're handing over that money, you're trying to get it off them, and you've got to tell them as well. So you need to change their perceptions. You know, sometimes it's obvious it's that, but sometimes it's not. You know, or maybe if the waiting for cleanliness, for example, is important, then you need to have all those pretty signs up saying I've checked it every 5 minutes, okay, and signatures, all those things that prove that you're satisfying some important parts of their value that that value wheel that they're filling. And we can also ask about, I'll just stay here. You can also ask about price, perception of price. Now that's perception of price, it's not actual price. Sometimes you can put actual, but the perception is what we're looking for. And probably if I just step back a bit and I say what is perception, we can ask it, say out of 10, let's pick some supermarkets because it'd be easy to understand, all right? If we were trying to rank, say, Aldi, Coles and Woolies and that, we'd be ranking them in some type of order, wouldn't we? We'd say they're worth, if we ranked them, what's the perception? How expensive? Are they least expensive, more, in between, expensive, non-expensive, or higher on that chart? Where would you fit those? I'm not asking for it, but you understand we're asking about the perception of that as well. And it works with that coffee shop example too. It's about perception. Do you perceive they're expensive? There's nothing wrong with being, businesses want to be in this level, some businesses want to be in this level. But you need to check with the customer what's the perception of your overall business in terms of price at the moment. Where do you fit in? Do you feel you're an expensive business or whatever? And it doesn't mean it's wrong, but we get a ranking, and this is only, it's a good simple method here. In this example here, you actually plot this on this graph here very simply, but this is under this line here. So we're charging, perception is it's 8 out of 10, it's fairly expensive. For the value, I think it was 77.5. If ideally we want to be around this line, which is sort of where we're meeting value, so our price is meeting value. So in this case here, we either need to reduce our price or increase our value. And if we're going to increase our value, then we focus on what's important to the customer. And in this case here, we need to focus on our speed, our cleanliness. You know, on the friendliness, they don't care if you're friendly or not, okay? They're mediocre on that. But the first thing you want to do, if you want to maintain the same price, then you need to increase the value that you're offering for that customer to keep them happy. So that makes sense, doesn't it? So it's the number one, it's not your perception, it's their perception. You've got to break that pie down and find out how big those slots are. What are the big parts of the value? Because how can you charge more? If you can suit what this customer wants and then fix them up even more than they want, then you can increase your prices because you're offering them the value that is deserving of a higher price. Fair enough? So you've got to then understand their value.
How do you find out what their perception is?
Surveys. But I was talking to Bruce yesterday. You deal with a lot of survey companies. Yep. So you can do that, or you can work out some way to do it just in your shop cheaply, I guess. But otherwise, there are professional companies out there that can do that as well. So, but number one, you've got to talk to your customer. Fair enough. Listen to every complaint. Listen to every praise. You can just get an idea what's important to your customer. But ideally, and it's not easy, but ideally you'd be doing proper surveys and really getting into it, finding out really what it is. The danger of you doing it yourself is you're not listening well enough to what the customer... fair enough, we all do the same. We don't want to hear the things, but we need to hear the things. Okay, what is important to the customer? How do we break it down? So, yeah. But if you can do it in an ideal world, great. You'll definitely be able to move. You move your price up because you're offering better value. That's what you've got to give. And what the value that's important to them. All right. Do you want to go deep? Yeah. It's a Friday the 13th. All right. Psychology pricing I love. Okay. I love the maths side of pricing. I love the psychology pricing. But because once you start getting into the brain of how consumers work, it makes it easier to price. Okay. You start to understand more and more about pricing. So I start off with this. That's how we look at the law of demand. So if we increase our price, our quantity goes down, or if we lower our price, our quantity goes up, right? But reality, that's not it. It's all over the place. It is all over the place. In general, we increase our price, our volume may reduce, but it is generally all over the place. It's a real mess. So some questions to think about. How do consumers determine prices? How should we communicate prices? Should we use price promotion? This is just some of many. Should we offer flat rates? Should we often offer different pricing options? So we break down purchases into 3 phases: pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase. All right. Initially, a customer sees a price. I'm sort of jumping a bit, but a customer sees a price and they've got to react to it some way. Fair enough? They've got to react to it. So they're working it out, and then they may determine to purchase or not purchase. But there is more to that. There is obviously a lot more to that inside. Let's try and get to some of that more. Price. I picked a few to look at, and one thing is price interest, just to start with. What is price interest? So what makes price more important than other facets of the product itself? So an example is time factors. If you're in a rush, is price as important to you? Right. All these things relate to your pricing. If you're dealing with certain areas, you've got gondolas out the front for people to run by because they're in a rush. Your prices can be different to the ones where people are going up the back of the store and they can take their time to find products. Okay. What happens if you've got a massive headache and you go to the chemist? Is price that important? Okay, so, there are different situations where price is or isn't important. I know I did go to a chemist for that same thing, and they were telling me there was one for $4, one for $5. I didn't care. Just tell me the one that makes it work and that I can drive with. That's all I cared about. So, you need to But there's different levels of that. If someone has a lot of income, its price is important to someone who doesn't have a lot of income. Okay?
Can be.
If they've got credit, if you've got a lot of credit available, then price is not important compared to someone with less credit. Okay? Oh, I got to go back on this one. Let's find this keyboard. Okay. Switch costs. So I like Apple iPhones. So really, if I see a Samsung phone or whatever phone, I don't care. I'm not interested. So I don't have really any interest because the switching cost of me changing from my Apple to another product is just too difficult for me to think about. If I'm using other people's money, is price important as if it's your money? No. And also, Bruce mentioned the product life cycle. In certain parts of the cycle, price is less important or more important. For example, at the beginning of the cycle, when, say, that it's a new tech product, the innovators like to just buy the new latest gadget and price is the secondary on that part of it. All right, so just thinking about that, understanding your market, who's coming into your store, whatever you're selling, are there certain parts of that thing that say price is more important or less important for your particular product? This reference price, this is the next part, but this is, I know I say a lot, but this is the most important thing to understand, is reference prices when it comes to psychology, okay? Because reference price is the expected price. It's the price that you expect something to be, all right? And just saw a bottle of water, and I was just thinking of an example and a reference price. So we all have prices for everything. Don't answer this question. This is an eraser. Can you see it? How much do you think it's worth? Don't say anything, but how much do you think it's worth, right? Have you formed a price in your mind? Okay, so that's your expected price. You've got some price in your mind, so that you're forming that preference price. Now, the second part, actually, with reference prices, you can either, it might be just one price, or it might be a range. So, for example, I don't know, what do you think this is worth? $10?
Yeah.
But I could say, look, I'm not sure, maybe it's 10 to 20. So I can actually have a range in my mind of what my reference price is. Okay? So I've got that price in my mind, and then we can adapt those levels. So how did you determine, I don't actually like using this, it must be a better example, but this will do. How did you determine this price in your mind? Does anyone want to say in their mind? What came to mind? How did you form a price for this?
Previous experience.
Okay, previous experience. Yep, that's a great one. Yep.
She just knows office works.
No, it's office works. Bit of foam. That's right. So you're guesstimating how it could be made up.
How important it was to me?
How important it was to you. Okay.
Where I purchased it from and how much I paid.
How much you paid. So you bought one already?
I have, but if I bought it from a $2 shop
and
it doesn't work, I'm not going to be as surprised or upset as if I bought it from, say, an office works and I paid $12 for it.
That's right. But that so we understand that we're forming a reference price. A lot of forming that reference price, and you actually hit it, was one of the parts is, how interested are we to actually form that price. But really, you can say a lot of it boils down to knowledge. The more knowledge we had about what the price is, the better. And there's just that bottle, you've got a bottle of water there, okay? Now, if you buy that bottle of water every day, you'll know what it is, won't you? You'll know what that is. It's $1 or $2, okay? You'll know what that is. If you buy it once in a while, and say that bottle of water, which is a good example, in my mind, it's probably worth $1.50 to $2.50, right? So I'm happy with that. So if I walk into a shop and it's available for $2, that's fine. It's within what I'm thinking it's worth. It's within my expected price. But if I walk into that shop, I just think like the hotel that said $3 a bottle of water. Okay, that's just out of it's out of my range. It's I can't accept that. It's too expensive. So what you need to understand with your business is, how does a consumer form a reference price for whatever product you're selling? And really think about that. It's not necessarily they're Googling. Everyone thinks that, and they are, looking at prices, but they're not doing that for everything. Okay? I can tell you an example. I needed a car battery last week. I still need a car battery. But I was surprised I couldn't find prices on batteries. So all these car plates, they weren't there. So, you know, I thought I would. I thought I just want to get an idea what a battery's worth, but I couldn't find it. And it is amazing how many things, and a lot of your businesses are, say, very specialised, not necessary that they can actually find the price or that. So, you know, therefore, how does this customer know that your price fits in, you know, is within their expected price? So,
your example of a battery for a car.
Yeah.
I mean, there's car batteries and there's car batteries. You can spend $60, you can spend $300.
You know that, I don't know that.
Yeah.
See?
On water fuel.
I could be taken for a ride. Yeah, that's true. So, but you've got that range then. So you just said $60 to 200. Yeah. So you've got that range, and then you eventually break that down with your knowledge of where it fits in. That's right. So you've got the expected. I really didn't have any idea. I was thinking somewhere around 100. I did eventually find out they're actually quite expensive now. So to get batteries.
And
so I was a bit shocked.
And where it's made and all that sort of stuff comes into play.
That's right. So when it comes to our pricing, we've got to be thinking about the reference price in the mind of our consumers. Where are they forming it from? You know, if you're in a hotel chain, people are Googling it non-stop, right? They're going to get prices all the time. But there's certain businesses where, you know, it's not necessarily so that you need to try to work out where they're developing their prices from as well.
And is it okay to ask them? Is it okay to say, you know, to throw that back and say how much, you know, do you think it's worth?
Depending on the product, you can. Ideally, we want to survey our customers anyhow and try to find out, but it's not an easy question to ask, to find out the range and that. But independent, I know when we do it, we'll do surveys to find out willingness to pay of customers, but we'll pick a particular market and ask them how much will they pay for this or how much they pay for that, to try and get an idea where their expected price sits as well. But I guess a lot of the time with small businesses, if you can't do the survey, you can certainly mention $100 instead of $80 and just see them gulp or not gulp. But you'll get some indication. But it's not easy. But also, a lot of your customers say to you, I heard about your business or blah, blah, this and that. You know, where do they get that source from? Because an expected price, reference price, can come from a friend, of course. You know, they've got $2 water down at Joe's corner store, and that. So it's a big area. But when we're relating to pricing, if we're thinking about our pricing a product, we need to think about adaptation levels. So are we fitting in within their reference prices? Okay, very difficult. True, you know, without research to find out that expected price, but we need to fit into that because they're either going to go back like this or take your product as well. But I've got more to add to that. I've got a few questions underneath. So with reference prices, your job is to protect reference prices. Your job is to try and push that up further and further. Because, for example, if you're advertising, you're doing discounts like 10% off, what are you taking it off? You're taking it off the reference price. If you can't protect that reference price, then, as Bruce said, that price bit goes down here. So you need to say you're getting it for $80, but it's really worth $100. And that's the part you've got to keep pushing. It's really worth $100. You just happen to get it for $80, but it's worth $100. You don't want that reference price, as Bruce said, to drop down to the $80. And that's a hard task, but you've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep focused. That is the reference price. If you're going to compare against competitors, don't pick the cheapest ones. Pick the most expensive ones and compare against them. You know, I see people going against Officeworks, whatever. You can't compete with everyone, so just compete with the ones that you can compete with if you're going to compare prices. You know, we're $50 cheaper than whoever it is down the road. When the theory with this is a very interesting one, we present which prices first. In theory, and we had actually yesterday we had an interesting company that sold big machinery, and this fit in because in theory point of view, talking about protecting our reference price, we should be presenting the highest items first. Okay. Now, if you think about that's right. If you walk into a shop, you look at the supermarkets. Often at eye level, what have they got? The higher ones. Let's think if you've got a reference price roughly in your mind, say it's $100, you look there, it's around that $100 here, and then maybe there's one underneath that's $80. Okay, then they're comparing it to the reference price. You see, you've got that, so they know it's probably worth that. About 100, but the cheaper versions may be 80 or something about that. So one of the theories is keeping that reference price up, presenting it in front of the customer that this is the price and can we go down from that? Well, yes, we can, but we're telling them about that reference price, pushing that bigger price. That's the one you got to push. If you got to get your prices up, you got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing the reference price up. If you're using promotions, I assume you do this, but if you don't, then make sure you do. If you're using promotions, it's for a limited time only, okay? Limited time only. And why is that? Because you just happen to be getting it $20 off this weekend, but it's really worth $100. So that's what you're telling the consumer all the time. So you're pushing that reference price up. You've got to keep pushing that up. So it is very important. And therefore, we all know, I think Bruce mentioned too, that one thing about reference prices, they're moving all the time. Okay, they are moving all the time, up and down. My bottle of water, as I said, originally might be $1.50, $2.50. I then start buying it regularly $2. I know it's $2, and then the next day I walk in the shop, it's $2.50, and I might just reject it. Okay, but the theory goes with reference prices. People will adapt, but you need to do it slowly. So if you want to get to $2.50 price point, maybe you've got to change it every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 cents a week, 5 cents a week, whatever. Okay, but gradually, a lot of big companies, particularly big distributors, they'll pop on little bits here and a little bit there. They might have a special at the front of their catalogue and then change a whole lot of prices at the back very slowly so that people don't notice it. Okay, but when they do notice it, and if it's only small, the theory is that they're adapting to the prices as they go forward. Yes?
Is that what you're talking about with that third bullet point from the top?
Oh, sorry.
The third bullet point from the top.
Adaptation.
Adaptation levels.
Oh, sorry, yes. Adapting, sorry, yes.
So is that adapting or adopting?
Oh, what did I put? Adaptation.
Adaptation is not a word.
Sorry, I can't read it.
Either adapting or adopting.
Sorry, that's the word I changed. I know we have a simulation contrast theory, which I took that out and I popped this in to adopting the price. You're right, adopting. So yes, you're right, adopting the price. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, so we're adopting that price and we're taking it forward. So that $2 can become $2.05, $2.10 as we move forward. Now, if you want to decrease a price for whatever reason and it's going to be permanent decrease, then you need to you can do it in a big bang and make a big song and dance about it because you want the market to notice that you've decided from now on, instead of selling for $100, you're going to sell it for $70. And if that's what you want to move the reference price down for whatever the reason, then you make a big song and dance about it and you do it.
Down, prices are down.
That's right.
Down.
And another, if you're going to increase prices because...
It works.
It does work, I know. If you're going to increase prices because you have no choice, such as cost, if you ever hear a bank or a lot of companies say they've increased their price, they always blame their cost. You just listen out for it when, it's on the media often, they'll say, oh, look, especially banks, we've increased our rate. Yeah, because our cost of funding's gone up. You hear it all the time. So there's nothing wrong with blaming costs. Now, we should be ethical about our pricing. But if it's what happened, it happened. You need to say, because if you're going to move that bottle of water from $2 to $3, they're definitely going to notice it. So if it's for the reason that it's a cost, there's been a big problem, a cost, whatever, then you need to explain it to them that, it's gone up because of our cost. We're not trying to rip you off, it's gone up, and we need you to adjust your reference price from this to this, okay? And I know you feel sorry for the banks. So, reference prices you've got to protect. You must protect your reference prices at all costs. Keep pushing them up. Just on another theory, just basic one, is proportional pricing when it comes to you setting your prices. We've got coffee. Just think about this. There are limits where consumers won't do anything or will do something. Okay, a lot of people are more loyal than you think. Some of them aren't, but there's a lot of loyal customers. To move from you to someone else is different. Possibly they'll move from a coffee shop because it's $2 less. Possibly, although for $2 coffee it's probably not even. I had a $2 coffee today actually. Would you switch the store because your car costs $2 less? Okay. No. Okay. There's a level where you wouldn't do that. So people evaluate prices proportionally. And a question I've got is, what type of discount is appropriate for a coffee or a car? Do we use 10% off or 40 cents or 10% or 4,000? Okay. The theory goes that the lower the price, you'd use the percentage, and eventually somewhere along the line you're using the dollar. But remember that grey part of what I said at the beginning? It depends on the situation. So you need to evaluate and make that decision for your product. For example, if you're selling, have a counter here at a takeaway shop or whatever, and the kids come up here all the time and they buy lollies, there's no point putting 10%. They don't know what it means. So you need to tell them something else. Okay. And perception of loss and gains. I've just picked a few, and this is one other I want to do. Gym fees. We all go to the gym?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, this is my gym. No. Okay. Which gym would you be more willing to patronise? Gym A's monthly fee is $50 and gives $5 per month off if the customer signs up for 6 months. And Gym B's monthly fee is $45 but charges an additional $5 per month if the customer does not sign up for 6 months. Okay. Most customers prefer A. Okay. Even though they're exactly the same, aren't they? There's nothing different about it. If you're not a member, you'll pay $50. If you're a member, you'll pay $45. They're exactly the same. But it's that loss aversion. So if you think about movie theatres, for example, what do we know? Movies cost this much, 20. They're getting very expensive. But they're about 22 or something dollars. But we know that if you go on a Tuesday, you get a half price. We know if you're a student, you'll get it at a lower price than that. But the reason they do it that way, what's in our mind? We know what it's worth. It's worth $22. That's the reference price. But you just happen to be getting it cheaper because you're a student or because you went on Tuesday. But it's really worth that much money. So all of that is about protecting that reference price there. And some other psychological pricing implications. Price quality. Generally, people believe that if your price is high or product is high, is it better quality? In general, yes, they believe it. What breaks that down? When someone's had experience, so knowledge of that. Okay, once that, it doesn't matter. You go to an expensive restaurant, you're assuming that it's really good. But then you eat there, the service is rubbish, the food tastes like whatever. There goes your impression of that price quality for that thing. But a lot of your businesses, they don't know. So you're putting out a certain price that's indicating a certain level of quality unless they actually try a lot of your businesses. Okay. With another theory, of course, is odd pricing, the $9.95s, all that. People still think $9.95 is cheaper than $10. Okay. I do. Everyone does. It just seems cheaper. But remember, at certain levels, $9.95s, all those also have a little inkling that it's cheap, and that may not fit in with your overall strategy and positioning. So you need to consider that when you're pricing your products. Does it really fit in with what I'm trying to do? Not all the time, but you wouldn't see a Porsche, I don't know, it'd be worth $572.29. You wouldn't see that. So do you understand that in your businesses you are popping out this perception to people? If they can't experience your goods, then price is a great indicator of what your business, how good your business might be.
So does that translate if you're charging an hourly rate and all of a sudden it goes from 70 to 73?
Did we adopt or adapt that? I'm not sure.
Whatever you want.
Okay. I prefer the simulation.
Is it better to go to 75 or is 73 okay?
Well, they're going to notice it though. If you're an existing business, they're going to notice it. So you're going to have to creep that up very slowly. Yeah, you're going to have to creep that, depending on your business. So your business might be customers who come in once a year. It may be a customer coming every week. So it depends on what that business is, what type. Oh, it might be a customer comes in once every 5 years. So it depends on that business. But the general rule, if they're going to notice it, you have to do it slowly.
Yeah.
And gradually do that over time. And then if your target is, look, we really think we should be at $80, then plan for it. Put a plan in place. That's right. And plan how you're going to do your increases to get to that, and how you're going to do it just slowly over, depending on, as I said, that frequency of the customer as well. I see business, they do it all the time. And they really pop their prices and just do it slowly. Sometimes I say it's only 1% increase or whatever, which is not a lot of money on a lot of products. But over time, if you keep doing that, it will make a big difference. It'll get you there. So,
But why not do it once every 12 months and just be upfront and go, we do it?
I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but we're talking about reference prices. What happens when you upset someone with a price? Oh, let's look around. Let's see what else is out there. Okay, so we're trying not to get them look around. We're trying to keep them with us, keep them happy. They're just moving along because prices do go up, and you do need to move your prices up. You can't sit static. It has to go up and up and up over time.
What do you do when you've got people on a subscription?
Yes, well, they need to be going up. They need to be going up, or you're going, or obviously your business is going backwards over time. That money, $1 today is not worth $1 tomorrow, so that has to keep going up slowly over time. So you just have to work out how to put price increases.
You can flag it too. You can put a date on it and say, 1st of January prices are increasing, but if you commit prior, we will honour this year's pricing into next year. If you
private health or
but then we still need to get them up there, in time. So it is difficult. It is a difficult decision. I have a lot of subscriptions, and I know the buggers put them up all the time, and I notice them too. But a lot of these things, it becomes often into a switch cost where how much. Okay, I can handle that increase. So I am adapting. Depends, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't really matter. But it depends on that loyalty of the customer as well, the switch cost. Is there other products that are directly competing that the customer doesn't care about your business, they'll swap to straight away? So it is difficult, but really that is part of our job in business. We've got to push our prices up. We won't survive.
And if you do go up in a step, the energy costs or structural steel costs or an increased skill set or something to up the perceived value as well. Justify the increased costs.
And that's a good point. So brought back to value, So one way is that you think of what can we do? We worked out in that coffee shop. If say we were pretty par on with value meeting, not in that example, but if value was meeting price, okay, and we want to increase our prices, then we need to also see if we can work on some of the value side of it as well. And a lot of increasing value doesn't necessarily mean costing you more. You just, there's certain things you can do that don't have to cost more. And look at a coffee shop. Not that they didn't care if they smiled, I think, in my survey, but, you make them work out. Speed was important, so they can just work on their processes to get that coffee out. I never understand coffee shops. They're one of the slow, isn't a slow business when you go to get a coffee. Okay, then the efficiency part of it, I don't know, it needs to be improved. Right. Difficulty of price comparison. Imagine you're in a tough market, competitive market. What do companies do? They try to make it difficult for consumers or whatever to compare prices. The beers companies were really good at it because the standard drink was $3.75. And then all these fancy beers came out, and they're $3.25. They're this. They're doing $8 wine. I had a So they make it very difficult to compare. And I've just done a simple example for a coffee cards, for example. Even if the coffee in this example here, I've got 3 coffee cards. I've got no discount card, 8th coffee free, 7th coffee free. Okay, and if the list price is $4, just then come down to this end here. So the average, one coffee per day, Monday to Friday, every week. Okay, because there's 260 coffees. If we average then out for no discount cards, $4. For 8th coffee free, it's $3.51, and for the 7th coffee free, it's $3.43. All right. Does that make a difference? Then there's two things to know about that. The first thing to know is the consumer's not going to calculate that. Okay. The second thing to know that you need to be very careful with these. If doing promotions like this, you need to really add it up and work out, because what is your bottom line here? That's actually what you're going to get per coffee if you're going to have this sort of thing. And in fact, I didn't mention in past, but our local coffee shop started a card, looked like this one here. They cut it within a month. I think they suddenly got their calculator out, right? Because it's so even businesses. So, but if you look at the reverse of that, I'll just show you another sample I did on phone cards. Okay, because I did this after Vodafone brought out, I think, a 35-day plan. Okay, so say the cost to top up, you know those phones that you top up your cards all the time? Yeah. All right, so if it's 28 days, look at the year. Over a year costs the consumer $521. If it's 35 days top up, it's $417. Okay, so the consumer won't really do that. They're not doing that calculation. And I've just done another table here. If we wanted to get income of $500 per annum, okay, the price points we'd need to have for a 28-day card would be $38.36, or right down here, $35, $47.95. What I'm just introducing this part is that sometimes if you're having trouble competing with a competitor, try to work out another method of presenting your product. Is there another packaging units? It's not easy, but still you can stand back for a bit and think, because the bottle companies did it, the telcos do it, they all do it. What do the chocolate companies do? Cut sizes, do it all the time. There's so many, you know, but the thing about the fast-moving consumer good market is that label down the bottom, though, that we can work out. Those who want to work out can see how much per gram it is or whatever. But in general, do think about other methods than of looking at your pricing, making it more difficult. We've got to be ethical in our pricing, but also our job is to protect our business, right, as well. So 80% of people can't be bothered adding it up, right? And the other 30% can't use a calculator. Right? Okay. Now, fair price, I wanted to cover fair price. We're not here to rip off our consumer, right? We really want them to stay with us. We want to give them everything we can to keep them. So we've got to work on that value. We're trying to give them a product at a good price, but we need to make money as well. So we need to work on that value that we discussed. And a lot of time that people feel, I mean, at the moment, I've heard some, which happens every time there's a hurricane in the US, petrol prices get gouging. There's gouging articles everywhere in the US. But for our point of view, we're not doing that. But sometimes fair price is often our fault for not going a bit further with the customer, explaining things. I'll just give you a simple example. If we do it like a men's shirt, get it dry clean, I'm just giving you an example, I don't know how much it costs, but let's say it costs $5, okay? But if you do say women's blouses, work blouses and that, they might charge $8. And then the women feel, hey, we're getting ripped off, right? That's not fair. Why does it cost so much more? And the actual reason is that with men's shirts, they're pretty standard shape. They fit straight on the machine, bang, bang, they're done. Whereas women's blouses, a lot of different sizes and shapes. I'm just making this up. I've never worn one. But okay, so lots of different sizes and shapes there. Did I just put that on video? There. Well, I'd like to say. And, okay, and it takes a lot longer to do the women's blouses. But if you're not explaining that to the customer, then they don't know. They just feel you're ripping them off. You've got something, you haven't got a fair price. So a lot of the time you do need to explain why something is more expensive from you. Ours more expensive, but we offer twice as much warranty. Okay? Ours much expensive, we'll install it in your home. Or we've got a call centre that will handle all your information. You need to explain and try and add why your value is better than the others as well. All right. And last thing with the psychology, the last thing I have to cover is price recall. Now, with psychology, everyone has the assumption they use the internet, right? Everyone has the assumption that we remember every price that we bought. I think it's getting harder and harder to remember, and one of the key reasons of why it's harder to remember is we're not using our cash. Okay, because now I'm pay waving. My eyesight's so bad. They tell me I hope I'm doing what I'm doing. I know it's not good, and I do trust people. So that, but also like in Sydney when I travel to Harbour Bridge. Now I do that regularly. I've got no idea how much it costs. The beeper goes off, my account gets tagged. I assume if you use the Opal Transport or whatever. So as we're using less and less cash, people are not recalling prices. Okay. So what happens then? If they can't recall the prices, then they've got to build that reference price up again from somewhere as well. So you cannot always assume that someone remembers every price and knows every price. That doesn't happen. People always think, they know that they bought that for $10 last week or whatever. They don't necessarily know that. So just think about with price recall. You have to go a bit deeper, but it's enough to get you thinking. There's some of the key areas about psychology I did want to discuss, particularly that reference price. Do you understand how important that is to keep pushing that up? Change your prices. And I'd like to say thank you very much. Thanks, and it's good to meet Bruce. And I'll let that. If you've got any questions, I'm going to hang around with Bruce. Will you hang around, Bruce? Yeah, so we'll hang around, and if you like. Thanks.
Please put your hands together for John.